My name is Mason Reed, and I was a broke food delivery driver with $42 in my bank account. That night, a rich customer made me climb 29 floors for her dinner, stole my tip, and got me suspended from the only routes that could pay my rent. Then my phone stopped showing QuickCart. A gold window opened on the cracked screen. Courier Window active. Pickup, Cloudline Hall, drop-off, Furnace House. Cargo, sealed ambrosia thermos. Client priority, divine. I tapped accept because broke people have different standards. That was how I became the delivery guy for the gods. But before the gods found me, Evelyn Lyles still had to steal my tip. The elevator died on the first floor, and Evelyn Lyles still expected her dinner on the 29th. By the time I reached her door, my shirt was glued to my back, the paper bag was sweating through my glove, and my left calf had started twitching like it wanted to quit QuickCart before I did. I knocked twice. Evelyn opened the door with her phone already pointed at me. She looked at the bag, then at my face. "You're late." I held the bag out. "The tower elevator is down. I climbed 29 floors." Evelyn did not take the bag. She tilted her phone so I could see the timer on the QuickCart screen. "That sounds like a you problem, Mason." I should have swallowed it. I usually did. Instead, I put my foot against the doorframe before she could shut it. Not inside her apartment. Not touching her. Just enough that the door stopped with a soft thud against my shoe. Evelyn's eyes sharpened. "Excuse me?" 29 floors, I said. "No elevator, no warning, no gate access, no concierge help. I got your food here before the bag tore open. You can be mad, but do not act like I took a nap in the stairwell." For one stupid second, I thought that would work. Evelyn smiled like rich people smile when they discover the poor person has feelings. She took the bag with 2 fingers, peeked inside, and said, "Cold. It's hot enough to fog the bag." "Cold," she repeated, louder because her phone was recording. "And now you're being aggressive." That was how she stole the tip. Not with a gun, not with a lawsuit, just one word on an app and a face that said she had practiced being disappointed in people. My phone buzzed before I reached the service stairs. Tip removed. Then another buzz. Customer reported unsafe delivery behavior. Then Dennis Gable called. Dennis managed QuickCart dispatch, like the building would collapse if he ever defended a driver. I answered because rent was 3 days late, my scooter needed brake work, and my bank account had less money than Evelyn's doormat probably cost. Dennis did not ask what happened. He started with, "Mason, what did you do?" I stopped on the landing between floor 23 and 22. "I delivered food. Revolutionary, I know." "Evelyn Lyles says you blocked her door. Her elevator was down. I climbed 29 floors." "Tone," Dennis said. "That word did more damage to me than the stairs." I gripped the rail. "Dennis, I need the shift. And I need Lakeview Tower clients not threatening chargebacks. You're suspended from premium routes for a week. Regular routes only, after review." A week without premium routes meant late rent. Late rent meant the landlord's red paper on my door, the one that did not care about stairwells, sweat, bad breaks, or Evelyn's fake victim voice. "So she lies and I lose work?" I asked. Dennis sighed like I was wasting his tragedy. "You lost control. Learn from it." He hung up before I could say the things that would have made the suspension permanent. I opened the QuickCart app anyway, because desperate people check locked doors twice. My premium route tab had already gone gray. A red banner sat over my name, account under conduct review. Under that, Dennis had typed one note for dispatch. Driver may escalate with high-value customers, assign low-risk routes only. Low risk meant long miles, small tips, and customers who asked for extra sauce like it was my private betrayal. The app had punished me before I even reached the lobby. I looked back up the stairwell. 29 floors above me, Evelyn was probably eating the dinner she called cold, telling herself she had taught a delivery guy manners. I made it down the last 22 floors because gravity was free and I was too broke to quit halfway. Outside Lakeview Tower, rain turned Gray Harbor into a gray smear of headlights and wet concrete. My scooter waited at the curb with one mirror cracked and the delivery box strapped crooked because the latch had been broken for months. I sat on the seat and opened my bank app. Balance, $42.18. A text from my landlord sat under it. "Rent by Friday, Mason. No extension this time." I laughed once, not because it was funny, because if I did not laugh, I was going to throw my phone into traffic and then I would be broke without a phone. That was when the screen changed. The QuickCart app vanished. Not closed, not minimized. Vanished. A gold-edged window unfolded over the cracked glass like someone had slipped sunlight under the screen. Courier Window active. Route available. Pickup, Cloudline Hall. Drop-off, Furnace House. Cargo, sealed ambrosia thermos. Client priority, divine. Base reward, 800 points. Timeliness bonus available. Integrity bonus available. I stared at it in the rain. Then I looked around for the hidden camera. No camera. No prank crew. Just a bus hissing at the curb, a security guard pretending not to see me dripping on the sidewalk, and Lakeview Tower glowing above me like a stack of apartments for people who never had to explain why their shoes were wet. The window blinked. Accept route? A sane man would have closed the phone. A man with $42 and a suspended premium account had different standards. I tapped accept. The street fell out from under me. My scooter, the rain, the tower, the bus, even the rotten smell from the alley behind the restaurant all snapped away. Wind punched into my lungs, white stone flashed under my shoes. For one choking second, I thought I had been hit by a truck and the afterlife had terrible customer service. Then I landed on a marble floor so polished it reflected my helmet. Cloudline Hall was not a building, it was a sky wearing columns. White pillars rose into gold clouds, birds made of light darted through open arches, a fountain poured silver water upward, the air smelled like honey, lightning, and a bakery I could never afford. I said the first holy thing that came to mind. Please tell me parking is validated. A woman with rainbow-colored wings turned from the fountain. She had a sealed bronze thermos in one hand and the expression of someone who had been waiting exactly 4 seconds too long. Mason Reed? She asked. My name in her mouth made my knees remember they were not paid enough for this. Depends, I said. Is Mason Reed in trouble? You accepted a divine courier route. I am Iris. She stepped closer and placed the thermos into my delivery bag before I could decide whether touching goddess property counted as a felony. This goes to Vulcan at Furnace House. Do not open it, do not smell it, do not sip it, do not let it touch mortal skin. I looked down at the bronze cap. It glowed through the bag like a tiny sunrise. What happens if I sip it? I asked. Iris's eyes moved from my wet sneakers to my cheap jacket. Your body would stop being what it is. That sounded medical, also expensive. So death? Not exactly. That's worse than yes. Iris leaned close enough that the gold around her pupils filled my vision. Deliver it sealed, human. Vulcan is impatient, and impatient gods break things. A route arrow appeared on my phone, not on a map. In the air. It pointed through an archway, down a bridge of sunlight toward a black mountain floating beyond the clouds. The bridge did not have rails, it did not have warning tape, it did not have anything except a glowing arrow and my growing belief that QuickCart had never been the worst job in Gray Harbor. Do I get hazard pay? I asked. Iris blinked. Nobody in Cloudline Hall had ever asked that apparently. Your reward is listed, she said. Listed is not paid. For the first time, Iris smiled. It was not warm. It was amused, which felt worse. Get him his ambrosia and ask him yourself. If Vulcan does not throw you into a furnace, he may enjoy your nerve. The bridge of sunlight hummed under my scooter tires. Yes, my scooter came with me. I did not understand that either. 1 second it had been chained to a wet curb. The next, it was parked beside a fountain in heaven like an ugly raccoon that wandered into a wedding. I mounted it because walking across a railless sky bridge felt like how rich people died in art installations. Halfway across, wind shoved me sideways. The delivery box rattled. The bronze thermos rolled inside. I grabbed the strap with one hand and the handlebar with the other, and my front tire kissed the edge of open air. Down below, clouds opened just enough to show a black ocean of stars. I did not scream. I made a professional courier sound. It was high, ugly, and full of regret. The route arrow pulsed like it was judging me. I swear, I told the arrow, if the tip is under $5, I'm fighting somebody's priest. Furnace House sat inside the floating mountain, carved into dark iron and red stone. Heat rolled from the entrance. Massive gears turned in the walls. Sparks fell like orange snow. Every hammer strike from inside hit my ribs. A metal door opened before I knocked. Vulcan filled the doorway. He was broad, soot-streaked, and built like a man who could fold my scooter into a spoon. One leg dragged slightly as he stepped forward, but the limp made him no less terrifying. If anything, it made him look like the mountain had tried to stop him once and regretted it. His eyes dropped to my delivery bag. Ambrosia, Vulcan said. Sealed, upright, and only mildly traumatized, I said. He took the thermos. His huge thumb broke the divine seal with one twist. The smell that rolled out was warm honey, summer fruit, and every good decision I had never made. My stomach punched itself. Vulcan drank half the thermos in one pull. Gold light moved under his skin. Cracks in the stone floor glowed around his feet. Somewhere inside the forge, a machine roared back to life. He exhaled. Finally. Then he turned away. That was it. No thank you, no signature, no tip, just a god with my delivery in his hand walking back into the forge while I stood there with rainwater in my socks and rent trying to murder me. Every survival instinct I had screamed at me to let him go. My bank balance screamed louder. Hey, I said. Vulcan stopped. The hammering inside Furnace House went quiet. Slowly, the forge god looked back over his shoulder. Human. That was not a greeting. That was a warning label. I swallowed. Delivery fee. His brow lowered. I pointed at my phone because pointing at his chest felt suicidal. The route said base reward, timeliness bonus, integrity bonus. I did not open it, drink it, sniff it, sell it, drop it into the sky, or die on the bridge. So pay me. Vulcan stared. A coal popped somewhere behind him. Then the forge god laughed. The sound shook ash from the ceiling. You demanded payment from me, Vulcan said. I demanded earned payment from you, I corrected, because apparently fear had left my body and stupidity had taken the wheel. Vulcan's grin widened. Do you know what was in that thermos? Ambrosia. Iris covered the basics. One honest sip could have burned the mortal limits out of you. Vulcan lifted the thermos. Not safely, not cleanly, but you might have crawled out divine. Or exploded. Hard to guess with mortals. I looked at the thermos. Then at him. Then back at the thermos. So, I said carefully, I carried godhood across a bridge with no rails and didn't even lick the cap. Yes. My knees softened. For 3 seconds I hated myself more than Evelyn, Dennis, Lakeview Tower, Quick Cart, and every stare in Grey Harbor combined. Vulcan saw my face and laughed harder. Do not mourn too much, Courier. Greedy honesty is rare. He tapped 2 fingers against my phone screen. The Courier window flashed. Route complete. Base reward, 800 points. Timeliness bonus, 400 points. Integrity bonus, 2,000 points. Client amusement bonus, 500 points. Total, 3,700 points. I forgot how to breathe. What is a point? I asked. Vulcan wiped soot from his thumb. You accepted the window without knowing the pay? I accepted because I had $42 and a bad attitude. That made him laugh again. Open your exchange tab. A new icon pulsed under the route total. Point exchange. I tapped it. 1 point equals 10 US dollars. The forge blurred. Not because of magic. Because my eyes went wet in the most embarrassing way possible. No, I said. Vulcan crossed his arms. No? No, because if this is a joke, I will become the first mortal to bite a god in his own house. Try it. I converted 10 points. My bank app opened by itself. A deposit landed. Courier window exchange, $100. I converted 100 more, $1,000. My hands started shaking. Vulcan leaned against the doorframe, looking disgustingly entertained. I converted another 1,000 points, $10,000. The bank balance rolled upward like a slot machine that had finally decided to apologize. $42.18 became $11,142.18. I made a sound that no adult man should make in front of a forge god. Vulcan pointed at me. There it is, there what is. The true prayer of mortals, money? Relief, money just makes it louder. I would have argued, but I was too busy converting another 500 points. By the time the Courier window warned me that keeping some points for the point shop was recommended, my bank account had crossed $16,000. $16,000. Not promised, not pending, not after tax forms Dennis would lose. Real money. I could pay rent, I could fix my scooter, I could buy groceries that were not 90% noodles and regret. I could breathe for longer than one shift. Vulcan tossed the empty thermos back to me. It landed in my bag with a heavy clank. Bring that back to Cloudline Hall, he said. Tell Iris her seal's held. Is that another route? Oh, then no. His grin vanished. Mine arrived. I had no idea where that courage came from. Maybe $16,000 had entered my blood. I deliver for listed routes, I said. Free returns are how companies steal labor. I just escaped one of those. For a moment, Furnace House went so quiet I could hear the liquid hiss inside the walls. Then Vulcan threw back his head and laughed until sparks burst from the ceiling vents. Fine, Mason Reed, keep the thermos until a route asks for it, but do not sell it. Could I? Not twice. Clear. The route arrow reopened behind me, pointing back toward Cloudline Hall. I rode away before the forge god changed his mind, with my delivery box smelling like ambrosia and my bank balance glowing brighter than the sky bridge. When the world snapped back, I landed in the same Lakeview Tower loading zone where I had accepted the route. Rain still fell. The bus was gone. My shoes were still wet, but my phone showed $16,142.18. I sat there laughing until the security guard asked if I needed medical help. I almost told him yes, because poverty had been kicking me in the skull for years, and apparently the treatment was divine contract work. Then I did the first rich thing of my life. Not buy a car, not order steak, not message Evelyn. A screenshot, though my thumb twitched. I paid rent. The bank app asked me to confirm the transfer. I hit confirm so hard the cracked glass clicked under my thumb. The balance dropped, but the red knot under my ribs loosened for the first time in months. My landlord replied 2 minutes later. Received, no apology, no grace, just one dry word. I still stared at it like a love letter. That was the real poison of being broke. You celebrate not getting thrown out. The Courier window did not let me enjoy it. It opened again. No fanfare, no warning, just gold letters cutting through the rain. Urgent lunch route available. Client, Series. Pickup, Cloudline Hall. Drop-off, Proserpina, Underworld. Cargo, sealed lunchbox. Delivery window, 38 minutes. Failure penalty, temporary swine transformation with full human memory. I stopped laughing. The window pulsed. Accept route? I looked at my bank balance, then at the penalty, then at the word Underworld. Absolutely not, I said. The reward line unfolded under the penalty. Base reward, 5,000 points. Survival bonus available. Royal household tip likely. 5,000 points was $50,000. The rain ran down my helmet into my mouth. It tasted like bad decisions. I tapped accept and whispered, fine, but if I turn into a pig, I am biting Dennis first. Ceres did not hand me the lunchbox like a goddess asking a favor. She shoved it into my delivery bag like a mother late for school drop-off and said, my daughter has missed 2 meals. If this arrives cold, human, I will make the swine penalty permanent. The lunchbox was white, square, and warm enough to steam through 3 layers of divine wrapping. A little stalk of wheat was painted on the lid. It looked harmless. That was how I knew it was going to ruin me. 38 minutes to the Underworld, I said, checking the courier window. Do you provide directions, hazard pay, or a written guarantee that I keep my human hands? Ceres looked me up and down. You accepted, because you listed 5,000 points. Then run. The route arrow split open above Cloudline Hall and pointed down. Not across, not forward. Down. A black circle turned in the marble floor at my feet. Cold air rolled out of it and wrapped around my ankles. My scooter's headlight flickered. The lunchbox in my bag gave one soft, innocent click. The timer started. 37 minutes, 59 seconds. I tried the reject button. The courier window flashed red. Cancellation accepted. Penalty begins in 3. My hands went cold. Nope, I stabbed. Undo so hard my thumb hurt. No cancellation. Strong acceptance. Very professional. Ceres's mouth twitched. Wise pig, she said. That was the first time a goddess insulted me before breakfast. It would not be the last. The point shop icon blinked in the corner of the window. I tapped it while the black circle breathed death air on my sneakers. Recommended item sat at the top. Shadow Helm. Temporary concealment from dead, damned, and underworld gate sentries. Does not conceal smell, sound, stupidity, or unpaid debt. Cost, 1,400 points. I had kept 2,100 points after my cash out with Vulcan. That had felt smart for exactly 11 minutes. Now the shop wanted most of it for a helmet that openly admitted it could not hide stupidity. Does this come with instructions? I asked. Ceres pointed at the timer. 36 minutes, 42 seconds. I bought the Shadow Helm. A black motorcycle helmet dropped into my hands. It looked like someone had carved night into a cheap delivery helmet and then charged luxury money for it. My old helmet sat on my scooter seat, cracked at the visor, loyal and worthless. I put on the Shadow Helm. The world dimmed. Not black, not blind, just quieter. The marble under me stopped reflecting my body. The air stopped noticing me. Even Ceres's eyes slid past my face for half a second before snapping back. Useful, she said. Expensive, I said. Survive and complain later. The floor swallowed me. Cloudline Hall vanished above my helmet. For one breath, I thought Ceres had dropped me straight into death. Then my scooter tires hit a concrete service platform under Gray Harbor, and a human alarm began screaming. That was almost worse. A black gate stood at the end of the platform, sealed behind 3 steel barricades and 2 American Gate Authority guards. A warning sign on the wall said the platform was restricted to death access. Below that, someone had taped a smaller paper sign banning private couriers. I felt personally attacked by municipal signage. One guard looked up from his tablet. Service platform is closed. Authorized hunters only. The Shadow Helm made his eyes slide off me, but my scooter engine idled like a lawnmower full of gravel. The second guard frowned. You hear that? 34 minutes, 6 seconds. The gate behind them pulsed. My route arrow pointed through the barricades, through the black gate, and down into the sort of legal trouble that came with federal logos. I could have tried explaining that a grain goddess had threatened me with piehood. The first guard raised a hand toward the alarm panel. I twisted the throttle instead. My scooter jumped the first barricade, clipped the second, and smashed through the third with the confidence of a vehicle that was not paying for its own repairs. The guards shouted. One grabbed for my jacket and caught only cold air around the Shadow Helm. His hand passed close enough to slap my delivery box. The lunchbox stayed warm. My dignity did not. The black gate opened like an eye. It swallowed me before the guards could decide whether to arrest a noise. Then my scooter tires hit a road of gray bone. The underworld did not look like fire and screaming at first. That would have been too honest. It looked like a border checkpoint after the sun died. A road stretched ahead between black cliffs. Pale lanterns hung from hooks that were not attached to anything. Beyond the road, crowds of shadowy people waited in endless lines, each holding a coin, a memory, or nothing at all. Nobody looked at me. That was the good news. The bad news was the gate. 2 Underworld sentries blocked the road with spears made of dark glass. Behind them, an iron arch pulsed with blue-black light. The route arrow pointed straight through. My timer said 29 minutes, 18 seconds. I eased the scooter forward. The shadow helm hummed around my ears. One sentry turned his skull-shaped mask toward the road. He did not see me. His spear remained low. I almost smiled. Then my scooter backfired. The sound cracked across the dead road like a gunshot. Both sentries lifted their spears. The closest one said, "Who moves?" I froze. The shadow helm could hide me. It could not hide the world's cheapest exhaust system. The lunchbox ticked again in my bag. 28 minutes, 44 seconds. A smarter man would have cut the engine and walked. A poorer man remembered that walking had already cost him a tip. I kicked the scooter forward. The sentry stabbed where the sound had been. The dark spear missed my back by an inch and sliced through the delivery box strap. The lunchbox slid sideways. I grabbed it with my elbow, leaned hard, and shot under the iron arch. The road behind me erupted with shouts. The shadow helm hid my body, but it did not hide tire marks burning across Underworld dust. "Great," I muttered. "Invisible criminal scooter, perfect!" The route arrow dove left into a valley full of black cypress trees. The trees whispered as I passed. Not words, names. Some sounded like people I knew. Some sounded like people I owed money to. One sounded exactly like Dennis Gable saying, "Tone." I accelerated. A growl rolled through the valley. The scooter slowed like the road had turned to glue. 3 heads rose behind the trees. Cerberus was bigger than a city bus and twice as interested in eating me. One head sniffed the road. One head barked at the sentries far behind. The middle head lowered until its nose hovered 6 feet from my helmet. The shadow helm went cold. The shop had warned me, smell was not included. I held my breath. Cerberus sniffed again. The lunchbox steamed. All 3 heads snapped toward my delivery bag. "No," I whispered. "This is for Proserpina. Not you. Not your brothers. Not your weird side heads." The middle head growled. A string of drool hit the road and smoked. The courier window blinked. Client note, Proserpina favors pomegranate glaze. Do not allow household pets access to cargo. Now you tell me household pets? Cerberus lunged. I twisted the throttle and threw the scooter between his front paws. Teeth closed behind my back with a sound like a dumpster getting crushed. The delivery box banged open. The lunchbox bounced once, almost flew out, and I caught it against my ribs. The heat burned through my jacket. I screamed. Cerberus barked. The sentry shouted somewhere behind me. The timer hit 20 minutes, 11 seconds. The route arrow pointed into a tunnel under a palace of black marble. I drove inside at full speed and merely hit a woman in a dark dress holding a silver fork. She did not scream. She simply lifted one finger. My scooter stopped. Not slowed. Stopped. The tires froze in the air 6 inches above the floor, and I kept moving forward until my stomach hit the handlebars. The shadow helm flickered. The woman looked straight at me. "You are late," she said. I pulled off the shadow helm because pretending I was invisible after she stopped my scooter with one finger felt rude and stupid. "Proserpina?" "Yes." I held up the lunchbox with both hands. Siri sends lunch, threats, and probably emotional damage. Proserpina's face changed at the wheat painted on the lid. "Not much. Just enough to make the palace feel less cold." She took the lunchbox and opened it. Steam rolled out. Inside were small golden breads, roasted roots, sliced fruit, and a little sealed jar of pomegranate glaze. The smell hit the hallway, and Cerberus whined from somewhere outside like a dog denied table scraps. Proserpina touched the bread with her fingertips. She remembered. That line did something to the air. The palace guards behind her lowered their weapons a fraction. Even my scooter stopped trembling. I checked the timer. Route delivered with 16 minutes, 32 seconds remaining. I grinned. "Great! Please confirm delivery before your dog confirms me as food." Proserpina looked at my phone, then at the scorch mark on my jacket where the lunchbox had burned me. "My mother threatened you, didn't she?" she asked. She used the phrase, "permanent swine." I am choosing not to unpack that in a workplace setting. Proserpina's mouth tightened, but not at me. She took one of the golden breads, broke it in half, and placed the smaller half back in the lunchbox. "Tell her I ate," she said. "Tell her I am angry. Tell her both things can be true." "Do I get paid extra for carrying emotional nuance?" The corner of her mouth lifted. "If you survive my husband, ask him." That was not encouraging. It was, however, very on-brand for divine customers. I marked that as a customer service warning, not a family judgment. She touched my phone. The courier window shimmered. "Delivery received," then the temperature dropped. Every torch in the hall bent sideways. A man's voice came from the far end of the palace. "Who wears my shadow?" Proserpina closed the lunchbox slowly. Pluto! The name hit like a coffin lid. A tall man in a black robe stepped from the shadows. His crown was iron, his face was calm in the way cliffs are calm before rocks fall. His eyes settled on the shadow helm under my arm. The fake shadow helm. The shop's expensive, stupid, very visible imitation of Underworld authority. Pluto extended his hand. The helm ripped itself out of my grip and flew to him. He turned it once. A toy copy. Paid copy, I said, because fear had never successfully made me smarter. Pluto's eyes moved to me. Proserpina said, he brought my lunch. He entered my road wearing my shadow, Pluto said. I held up both hands. For work, only for work. I had 38 minutes and a pig clause. A what? Proserpina asked. Your mother wrote a penalty where I keep my human memories but become livestock. I am beginning to understand family boundaries are different up here. Proserpina covered her mouth. It might have been horror, it might have been a laugh. Pluto did not laugh. He walked closer until his shadow covered my scooter, my bag, and every bad decision that had carried me there. Mortals do not cross my gate, Pluto said. Respectfully, I said. Mortals also do not climb 29 floors for no tip, but here we are. That got nothing. The room stayed deadly quiet, so I tried the only weapon I had left, panic with a mouth. Look, I said. Ceres wanted her daughter fed. Proserpina looks fed. Cerberus almost ate Glaze. Your guards are probably mad about the tire marks. I will pay for those when I am not in the presence of a death god. But if this is about the helmet, blame the point shop. It recommended the shadow helm. I bought the shadow helm. I did not know it was fake royal fashion. Pluto's stare did not move. I was sweating inside a palace cold enough to freeze breath. Proserpina set one hand on the lunchbox. He was honest about the cargo. Pluto's jaw tightened. I saw the mistake then. Not a secret, not a plan, just the obvious disaster right in front of me. Ceres had sent lunch. Proserpina had smiled. Pluto had walked in and found a mortal wearing a fake copy of his power while delivering food from his mother-in-law. No god wanted to look insecure in front of his wife. Unfortunately, my mouth reached that conclusion before my survival instinct could stop it. Sir, I said, if this is a jealousy thing, you are aiming at the wrong broke man. Also, respectfully, you look old enough that fighting delivery guys over lunch makes it worse. The palace died. Even Cerberus stopped whining. Proserpina stared at me like she was watching someone jump off a bridge and judge the landing halfway down. Pluto leaned in. His face was inches from mine. Repeat that, he said. I considered prayer. I considered running. I considered turning into a pig and hoping pigs had shorter legal sentences. Then Proserpina laughed. It slipped out of her before she could stop it. One sharp, bright sound in the black palace. Pluto's eyes flicked to her. She looked away, smiling into the lunchbox. For 3 heartbeats, nothing moved. Then Pluto laughed too. Not kindly, not safely, but truly. The sound rolled down the hall through the Cypress Valley and probably frightened every ghost in a 5-mile radius. Too old, Pluto said. The courier calls me too old. I said respectfully, I whispered. Pluto tossed the shadow helm back. It hit my chest. I caught it and almost dropped it. Keep your toy shadow, he said. If my gate guards catch you again, they may test how temporary Ceres' pig magic is. The courier window flashed. Royal household tip added 5,000 points. Survival bonus added 3,000 points. Client amusement bonus added 2,000 points. Route total 15,000 points. I looked at the number, then at Pluto, then at Proserpina, who was calmly spreading pomegranate glaze on bread while pretending she had not watched her husband tip a man for insulting his age. I appreciate your business, I said. Pluto's smile sharpened. Leave before I reconsider my sense of humor. I put the shadow helm on so fast I nearly broke my nose. The ride out was worse. Cerberus remembered the smell of the lunchbox and chased me all the way through the Cypress Road. The sentries heard the scooter and threw spears at empty air. One spear clipped the delivery box and tore a clean groove through the plastic. My timer had stopped, but my heart kept counting. When the iron arch appeared ahead, I saw light beyond it. Human light. Gray Harbor Gate light. And between me and that exit stood a line of injured hunters in white and gold Sunspire gear. They had not been there when I entered, or maybe they had been fighting deeper in the underworld while I was busy committing social suicide in Pluto's hallway. Either way, they looked like people who had paid a fortune for armor and still gotten beaten with the whole afterlife. One hunter knelt with blood on his sleeve. Another dragged a cracked shield. A tall man at the front held a sword that smoked at the edges. Beside him, a broad-shouldered captain shouted for a retreat path. I did not know their names then. I only knew the Sunspire emblem because every poor courier in Gray Harbor knew who tipped badly and who owned half the gate contracts. The route arrow pointed right through them. My shadow helm flickered. A warning flashed. Concealment integrity, 9%. Of course! The tall hunter turned as my scooter burst from the shadow road. For half a second, the helm failed. His eyes met mine through the cracked black visor. The captain beside him saw the quick card delivery box, saw the smoke coming off my tires, saw Cerberus's middle head snap at the air behind me before the gates sealed it out. The captain's mouth opened. I did not wait for a speech. I swerved around their front line, lifted one hand, and said, "Left lane bites." Then I rode up the exit ramp. Behind me, someone shouted, "Find that courier!" Another voice answered, "On a scooter? In a death gate?" A third voice, lower and sharper, said, "I don't care what he was riding, find him." The gates spat me into a restricted service tunnel under Gray Harbor. My scooter rolled 3 feet, coughed smoke, and died. The shadow helm went heavy on my head. The delivery box hung half open. The lunchbox smell was gone, replaced by burnt rubber, underworld dust, and the sweet stink of almost becoming dog food. The courier window displayed my new balance. 15,000 points. $150,000 if I cashed it all. I converted just enough to make my bank account look like a clerical error, and left the rest alone, because the underworld had taught me 2 things: gods paid better than humans, and the point shop was going to keep robbing me to save my life. I should have gone home. I should have slept for 12 hours. I should have thrown my phone into the harbor and vanished under a fake name. Instead, the courier window pinged again before my scooter engine cooled. Repeat client route available. Client, Vulcan. Pickup requested, Gray Harbor, cargo, fried chicken, cold beer. Drop-off, Furnace House side gate. Client note, locked out after divine drinking argument. Do not tell Iris. A death god had just tipped me for an insult, elite hunters were looking for a helmeted courier, and a forge god wanted drunk food through a side gate. I stared at the phone. Then I checked the reward. Base reward, 2,000 points. Friendship bonus possible. I started pushing my dead scooter toward the nearest chicken place. Fine, I said. But this time, the beer rides in the insulated bag and the god can sign on arrival. Vulcan was locked outside Furnace House when I arrived with 2 buckets of fried chicken, a 12-pack of cold beer, and enough underworld dust on my jacket to qualify as a haunting. He sat on the side steps of his own divine forge, one huge hand over one eye, while a sealed iron door glowed behind him. Do not ask, Vulcan said. I parked my scooter beside a bronze goat statue that looked like it had judged better men than me. You got kicked out of your own house. I am absolutely asking. Vulcan reached for the chicken. I lifted the bag away. Signature first, I said. The underworld taught me boundaries. The forge god stared at me. I stared back with the empty confidence of a man who had survived Pluto by being accidentally insulting. Vulcan pressed his thumb to my courier window. Route complete. Base reward, 2,000 points. Friendship bonus, 2,000 points. Client dignity surcharge, 1,000 points. Dignity surcharge? I asked. You brought beer to a locked-out god and did not laugh until after payment. I laughed internally. Billable restraint. I gave him the food. Vulcan bit into the chicken and froze like he had discovered a sacred bird hiding in a gas station box. This bird died with honor, he said. It died under a heat lamp. Do not ruin praise with details. The sealed side door clanged behind him. A woman's voice from inside shouted something hot enough to make the iron glow brighter. Vulcan winced. Divine drinking argument? I asked. Do not tell Iris. The client note already did. He muttered a word that made the goat statue's horns smoke. Vulcan wiped chicken grease from his fingers and said, Since you're already here, I need star iron. The courier window opened before I could pretend I had no signal. Material route available. Client, Vulcan. Cargo requested. Star iron ore, minimum 1-handled block. Pickup, the outer ridge. Recommended tool, star iron pick. Base reward, 6,000 points. Quality bonus available. I read the reward twice. $60,000 base. Then I read the location twice. The mountain gate is a gate, I said. Outer ridge only, Vulcan said, like that made a mountain full of monsters polite. No need to go near the inner pit. Bring me 1 block heavy enough to forge a hinge. You need a hinge? He looked at the sealed side door. Something inside threw a pan hard enough to dent divine iron. Several hinges. I bought the star iron pick from the point shop for 1,200 points and complained the whole time. Vulcan ignored me until I said, This pick better mine by itself. It does not. Then why is it $12,000? Because it can bite ore that bites back. I stopped complaining for half a second. Ore bites! Vulcan smiled with chicken in his beard. Run if it hums! The outer ridge was not outer enough. The courier window dropped me and my scooter on a black mountain path under a red sky. The rock glittered with silver veins. Wind scraped the ridge like a blade across bone. Far below, something huge moved in the clouds, slow and patient. I found the first star iron vein 6 minutes in. It hummed. No, I told it. The ore hummed louder. I hit it with the star iron pick. The mountain rang like a bell. Silver sparks jumped up my arms and tried to chew through my gloves. I screamed, hit it again, and a chunk the size of a football dropped at my feet. The courier window checked it. Purity, 41%. Minimum acceptable. Minimum acceptable was rich people language for do it again. I should have taken the ugly chunk and left. Then I thought of Evelyn saying cold and Dennis saying tone. If I had finally found work where overdoing it made me richer, I was going to overdo it until my spine sued. A brighter vein led me to a half-buried boulder, black outside and silver at the cracks. Purity, 97%. Weight, excessive. Retrieval not recommended. Not recommended had become my business model. I struck it. The boulder screamed, and 3 stone mites the size of dogs tore out of the ridge. One bit my delivery box, one jumped for my face, one discovered the star iron pick could bite back. When the last mite cracked apart, the boulder rolled free. It was too heavy for the scooter, me, and common sense. The courier window offered a delivery sling for 900 points. I bought it while cursing. The sling wrapped the boulder in gold thread and anchored it to my scooter like I had decided to tow a bank vault through hell. The ride back to Furnace House took 12 minutes and removed several years from my life. Vulcan was still on the steps when I arrived. The chicken bucket was empty. The beer was gone. One eye was swollen like the divine drinking argument had evolved. He looked at the boulder behind my scooter, his mouth opened. That alone was worth at least 500 points. You said one-handled block, I said, climbing off the scooter limping. I brought a block. It has handles now. Gold sling handles, very premium. Vulcan stood slowly. He touched the silver crack in the boulder. His hand shook. This is pure star iron. That sounds expensive. This much has not fallen into mortal reach for 300 years. That sounds more expensive. He looked at me. You dragged this out of the mountain gate alone? With the help of 3 biting rocks and a shop item I will be disputing emotionally. Vulcan laughed once, low and sharp. The side door opened behind him. A soot-covered iron hinge fell out, snapped in half, and landed at his feet. From inside Furnace House, the same angry woman's voice shouted again. Vulcan looked at the broken hinge, then at the pure star iron, then at me. Quality bonus, he said. The courier window flashed. Route complete. Base reward, 6,000 points. Quality bonus, 14,000 points. Over delivery bonus, 10,000 points. Client desperation bonus, 5,000 points. Total, 35,000 points. I sat down on the mountain step because my legs had become symbolic. $350,000 in points. Vulcan pointed at the point shop icon, now blinking like it had smelled my money. Buy the racing suit, he said. That sounds like you telling me to give my money back to the universe. You crossed the underworld, survived the mountain gate, and insulted Pluto with courier reflexes and bad equipment. That will stop being funny when something fast catches you. The shop opened by itself. Racing suit. Courier grade impact frame. Boosts speed, grip, impact force, and short-duration survival under gate pressure. Stage 1 only. Timer limit applies under combat stress. Cost, 18,000 points. I stared at the price. This suit costs more than every car I have ever owned combined. Vulcan shoved an empty beer can into my hand like it was emotional support. Buy it before you die cheaply. I bought it. Black fabric snapped around me under my delivery jacket. Red lines ran down the gloves. My bruised ribs stopped screaming. My legs steadied, and one careless step nearly launched me into the goat statue. Vulcan caught my collar. Timer and control. Power without control makes expensive stains. This from the man locked outside his own house. He let go. I hit the steps. The goat statue looked pleased. I would have stayed there arguing, but the courier window snapped open with no client listed. The gold border flickered red at the corners. Trickster route available. Client, Monkey King. Pickup, sealed bronze box, the inner mountain gate. Drop-off, buried stone marker beneath the mountain cedar. Reward, 12,000 points. Legendary favor possible. Warning, client reliability unstable. Vulcan leaned over my shoulder. The amusement left his face. Do not take that. I looked at him. You know the Monkey King? Everyone knows the Monkey King. That is the problem. The reward says legendary favor possible. It also says unstable. So does my rent history. Vulcan grabbed my wrist before I could tap accept. The Forge God's grip was hot enough to sting through the racing suit. Mason, he said, and the fact that he used my first name without laughing made the air heavier. Trickster routes are never just routes. The window pulsed. Offer expires in 10, 9. I looked at the word legendary. Good, I said. Then it better tip. I tapped accept. Vulcan swore. The inner mountain gate smelled like wet stone, pine sap, and blood. The red sky above the ridge had turned black. The outer path was gone. My scooter and I stood beneath a cedar tree, twisted around a stone marker carved with characters I could not read. The route arrow pointed into a cave behind it. A muffled voice came from under the marker. Courier! Down here! I froze. The stone marker had a face, not a carved face, a living one. A man's face with golden eyes, wild brows, and a grin that looked like it had ruined dynasties for fun. Monkey King? I asked. Obviously. Do I look like a buried accountant? I try not to judge clients during active routes, he cackled. Good mouth. Bad survival odds. Listen carefully. Inside that cave is a bronze box. Bring it here. Do not open it. Do not bargain with anyone wearing snake iron. Do not believe anyone who says the sacrifice is voluntary. That last line killed the joke in my throat. Sacrifice? Did I mumble? Hurry. The bronze idiot wakes soon. The route arrow pulsed toward the cave. I put on the shadow helm. It settled over the racing suit with a cold bite. My points balance suddenly felt less like wealth and more like ammunition. The cave opened into a mountain chamber full of green fire. Iron Serpent Guild banners hung from the walls. I knew that emblem. Everyone in Grey Harbor knew it. Black snake wrapped around a steel fang, expensive raids, ruthless contracts, survivors who came back quiet. At the center of the chamber stood a bronze colossus as tall as Lakeview Tower's lobby, chained in place by 4 glowing anchors. Its head was lowered. Its chest pulsed like a furnace behind armor. Behind the colossus, on a stone altar sat a sealed bronze box. My package! Between me and the altar, Iron Serpent hunters dragged 3 bound recruits toward the anchors. One recruit could not have been older than 19. His armor was cracked. Blood ran from his hairline into one eye. He dug his heels into the stone while a thick-armed enforcer shoved him forward. At the far side of the chamber, Vivian Knox watched from a raised ledge in a white coat over black armor. I knew her name because her badge displayed it in bright silver letters, the way villains do when they expect branding to survive witnesses. Vivian's voice carried through the chamber. 1 body per anchor. The Colossus freezes. We claim the core, and Iron Serpent owns the first bronze mountain drop in Washington. The recruit twisted toward her. You said we were bait, not fuel. Vivian did not even blink. Bait gets eaten. Fuel gets remembered. Be proud. The enforcer laughed and shoved him again. My route arrow pointed past them. The box was right there. Take it, leave, get paid. That was the job. The racing suit warmed against my arms like it wanted movement. The shadow helm hid me. The recruits were not my clients. I had no contract with them. I had no guild license. I had no business starting a war with people who murdered their own trainees as a business model. The enforcer grabbed the young recruit by the back of the neck and forced his face toward a glowing anchor. The recruit screamed, "Please!" I saw Evelyn's door closing. I heard Dennis say tone. I heard Ceres call me wise pig. Maybe I was still greedy. Maybe I was stupid. Maybe there are only so many times you can watch someone powerful treat a worker like disposable equipment before your body moves without permission. I cut the scooter engine, stepped out of the shadow helm's shimmer, and punched the enforcer in the side of the head. The racing suit turned my panic into physics. The enforcer flew sideways, hit an anchor pillar, and folded around it with a sound that made every hunter in the chamber turn. The recruit dropped to the floor. I pointed at him. Run away from the glowing murder rope. He crawled backward, eyes huge. Vivian Knox looked down at me from the ledge. Her face did not twist, it sharpened. Who are you? I wanted a better line, something cold, something heroic, something worth engraving. What came out was, delivery guy. Your workplace safety is trash. For 1 second, even Iron Serpent froze. Then Vivian raised her hand. Kill him and use him instead. There it was. Villains never just lose, they double down and make the receipt longer. The first hunter lunged with a spear. I ducked too fast, slid under his arm, and slammed my shoulder into his ribs. The racing suit flashed red at the seams. Combat stress detected. Stage 1 timer, 4 minutes, 59 seconds. A timer appeared over my courier window. Of course there was a timer. The second hunter threw a chain at my legs. I jumped, hit the wall, and stuck there for half a breath because the suit's grip locked into the stone. That surprised him. It also surprised me, which ruined the cool factor. I kicked off the wall and landed beside the recruit. Can you walk? I asked. I think so, he said. Think faster. He ran. The bronze colossus lifted its head. The broken anchor beside the enforcer flashed. The sacrifice pattern had cracked, but not stopped. Green fire rolled through the chains and sank into the colossus's chest. The buried Monkey King's voice echoed from nowhere and everywhere. Courier, box first, monster second if you insist on being dramatic. You mentioned the sacrifice too late, I shouted. The colossus ripped one chain out of the floor. Vivian's hunters scattered. That was the first good thing Iron Serpent did all day. The colossus swung the broken chain across the chamber. I shoved the recruit behind a stone pillar and dove under the sweep. The chain smashed through 2 Iron Serpent hunters and flung them into a wall. Vivian's face finally changed. Not fear, calculation. She looked at the altar, then at me, then at the recruits escaping toward the cave mouth. Forget the courier, Vivian shouted. Hold the exits, no witnesses leave. I hated that she was practical. The box was behind the Colossus. The recruits were near the exit. Vivian's hunters were moving to cut them off. My timer showed 3 minutes, 11 seconds. I was a courier with a package and 3 minutes of rented muscles. I ran at the Colossus. It tried to step on me. The racing suit boosted my legs, and I shot forward under its foot. Stone exploded behind me. I hit its ankle with both fists. Bronze dented, but the monster did not fall. 2 minutes, 41 seconds. The Monkey King yelled, "Chest seam! Hit the chest seam! You could have led with that." I jumped, caught a hanging chain, and swung upward. The Colossus grabbed for me, missed my body, and tore my old delivery box off the scooter harness. The box split in half. That box had sentimental, unpaid value. I drove my fist into the chest seam. Bronze cracked. Green fire blasted out and threw me across the chamber. I hit the ground, rolled, and tasted blood. The timer showed 1 minute, 28 seconds. Vivian reached the altar. She grabbed the bronze box. The route arrow screamed red. Cargo interference. No! Absolutely not. I had not climbed stairs, crossed heaven, escaped the underworld, overpaid for a suit, and started a guild war for Vivian Knox to steal my package. I pushed up. The racing suit shook around me. Vivian looked down from the altar with the box in one hand. "You should have stayed invisible, courier." I wiped blood off my mouth. "You should have tipped your recruits." She threw the box to another hunter and pointed at the exit. "Go!" The hunter caught it. The young recruit I had saved tackled him from the side. Not clean, not trained, not smart, beautiful. They hit the floor. The bronze box skidded across the stone toward the Colossus's foot. I moved. The suit timer hit 49 seconds. The Colossus raised its chain for a final swing. Iron Serpent hunters ducked. The recruits screamed. Vivian shouted an order I could not hear over the bronze roar. I grabbed the box with one hand, planted my other fist into the cracked chest seam, and drove forward with everything the suit had left. The racing suit burned. My vision narrowed to red lines and green fire. 12 seconds. The seam split. 8 seconds. The Colossus's chest opened like a furnace door. 3 seconds. I shoved the bronze box under my arm and punched through the core. The world turned white. When sound came back, I was lying under half a bronze hand. The racing suit was dead weight. My arms shook. My ribs had filed a complaint with every god in reach. Above me, the Colossus stood perfectly still. Then its head cracked down the center. The bronze giant collapsed backward, missing me by less than a foot, and shattered into pieces across Iron Serpent's whole sacrifice circle. Green fire winked out. The anchors died. The recruits stared at me. Iron Serpent hunters stared at the ruined boss core they had tried to buy with human bodies. Vivian Knox stared at the empty space where her victory had been. That reaction counted. Not because she looked shocked, because for the first time in that chamber, her plan no longer owned the exits. The recruit I had saved grabbed 2 others and ran. More followed. Vivian saw them go and stepped forward. I lifted the bronze box. "Package secured," I said. The courier window flashed. The courier window offered to pull me out for 500 points. I paid before my pride could object. Vivian's hand closed on empty air as the gate pulled me out. I landed beside the cedar marker and face planted into wet pine needles. The Monkey King burst out laughing from under the stone. "Beautiful! Terrible form, but beautiful!" I rolled onto my back and held up the bronze box. "Sign, now!" "Open it first." "No. You do not even want to know?" The last forbidden thermos could have made me a god. I am done learning package value after the fact. Sign, pay, then emotionally injure me. The Monkey King's grin widened until it looked physically illegal. A golden hand made of light reached from the stone, tapped my courier window, and confirmed delivery. Route complete. Base reward, 12,000 points. Rescue complication bonus, 8,000 points. Boss disruption bonus, 15,000 points. Client entertainment bonus, 5,000 points. Total, 40,000 points. I closed my eyes. $400,000 in points if I wanted it. My body hurt too much to celebrate properly, so I whispered, "I forgive almost one thing." The bronze box clicked open by itself. Inside was a strip of red gold hair burning without smoke. The stone marker cracked. The Monkey King's buried face pulled free from the rock just enough for his eyes to shine like twin suns. Behind him, deep in the mountain, something long and golden answered with a thunderous hum. "My staff lock," he said. "You brought the key close enough. Not the staff itself. I had to do some of the work. I hate that." "Congratulations on personal growth," I said. The red gold hair floated to my palm. It curled into a ring of ember light and cooled into a single strand. The courier window labeled it, "Monkey King Ember Hair, Single-Use Clone Token. Break in hand during mortal danger. Clone duration unstable. Attitude not guaranteed. Attitude not guaranteed? I asked. The Monkey King winked. If it copies you, courier, attitude is certain. The mountain shook as a distant golden staff tore free from whatever had held it. The Monkey King's laugh rolled through the mountain gate, then his face sank back into the cracked marker, leaving only the ember hair in my palm and a new problem crawling up my spine. Iron Serpent had seen me. Vivian Knox had seen me. The recruits had escaped, which meant someone would talk. Maybe not to the American Gate Authority, maybe not to news cameras. But people who survive sacrifice pits do not stay quiet inside their own nightmares. The courier window pinged before I could stand. Not one route. 5, then 7. Household requests, forge requests, temple requests, and emergency complaints flashed too quickly to read. Apparently, surviving disasters had made me a specialty courier. Vulcan's route forced itself to the top. Client message, Furnace House. I accepted the message, not the route. Vulcan's voice came through the phone, rough with forge smoke. You took the Monkey King's route. I lay in the pine needles, bleeding on a racing suit worth more than my life used to be. Strong opening accusation? Did you live? Mostly. Did something explode? Define something. A long silence. Then Vulcan said, Your name is moving through places it should not move this fast. Gods talk. Monsters listen. Guilds listen worse. You need a guide. I need a shower, a new delivery box, and a lawyer who bills in chicken. You need someone who can read old routes before they become traps. I pushed myself up on one elbow. I am not hiring an assistant. You are not hiring her, Vulcan said. I am assigning her. The courier window printed one approved contact in bright gold. Guide attachment pending, Piper Vale. A second note appeared under it. Client warning from Vulcan, do not promise her snacks unless you can afford consequences. I stared at the screen. The Monkey King laughed under the stone. Somewhere inside the mountain gate, Iron Serpent's ruined colossus cooled around a dead sacrifice circle. My first real hero choice had paid me like a crime. Then the guide attachment blinked again, and I realized the next disaster was already asking for snacks. Piper Vale arrived before I got the pine needles out of my hair. The courier window opened over the cracked screen of my phone, and a woman with sky blue hair stepped out of the gold light like she had been personally offended by gravity. She was tall, sharp-eyed, and dressed in travel leathers too clean for anyone who had ever worked a real route. She looked at me lying beside the cedar marker, looked at my broken delivery box, then looked at the bronze dust stuck to my face. This is him? Piper asked. Vulcan's voice came through the window behind her. That is Mason Reed. He survives badly, but he survives. He smells like burnt metal and panic. That's my premium scent, I said, pushing myself up. It costs extra. Piper folded her arms. I am not here to carry bags for a human courier. Good, I already have bags. They explode sometimes. Vulcan cleared his throat through the phone. Mason. Piper reads old route marks, realm seals, dead languages, and mythic traps. You need that. Piper. Mason ignores warnings, demands payment from gods, and somehow wins routes that should kill him. You need that less, but you are assigned anyway. Piper's eyes narrowed. Assigned? Temporarily, Vulcan said. I am not temporary anything. Then make yourself useful fast, I said. The last client who gave me vague instructions tried to use teenagers as furnace fuel. That shut her up for half a second. Only half. Piper reached into the air, plucked a strip of gold from the courier window, and flicked it. A new route opened. Cross-Pantheon priority route available. Client, Queen Nephra. Pickup, Furnace House. Cargo, 7 forge lenses sealed. Drop-off, Queen Nephra's Court. Delivery window, 42 minutes. Failure risk, solar binding. I stared at the last line. Solar binding sounds like a polite way to say crispy statue. Piper glanced at the route and went pale under the blue in her hair. It is worse than that. Your mind stays awake while the sun polishes you. Great. A premium tanning package. Vulcan's voice hardened. Queen Nephra asked for you by reputation. Do not embarrass me. You sent me a guide who opened by insulting my smell. Your smell is not my fault. The forge god cut the message before I could bill him for morale damage. Piper snapped her fingers. A clean satchel appeared in her hand. Come on, courier. I will keep you alive long enough to learn basic respect. I stood, every bruise from Iron Serpent complaining at once. Respect costs extra too. At Furnace House, Vulcan handed over 7 round lenses wrapped in black cloth. Each one glowed under the fabric like a captured coin of sunlight. The courier window sealed them in my new replacement delivery box, which Vulcan had forged in 12 seconds while muttering about cheap mortal plastic. Do not open the box, Vulcan said. I have heard that before. It usually means I carried something that could have made me rich, divine, dead, or all three. This time it means the lenses will burn your eyes out. Simple, clear, horrifying. Thank you. Piper leaned over the box and sniffed. Furnace glass, dawn ash, and a royal deadline. You can smell deadlines? No. I can smell gods lying about how urgent something is. She looked at the route timer. This one is actually urgent. The courier window pulled us through. Heat hit first. Not forge heat, desert heat, court heat. The kind that made my teeth feel dry. We landed on pale stone outside a massive gate carved with lions, wings, and eyes. Beyond the gate rose gold walls, blue tiles, and a stairway leading toward a throne chamber flooded with white sunlight. Between us and the stairs sat the Sphinx. She was larger than my scooter, with a lion's body, a woman's face, and eyes that said she had eaten better men for answering slowly. Her paws blocked the only archway. Her tail flicked once against the stone. Piper stopped so fast I almost walked into her. "Do not speak," she whispered. The Sphinx smiled. "Too late." The courier breathes. The courier answers. I looked at Piper. Is breathing a contract here? Everything is a contract somewhere, Piper hissed. The route timer said 31 minutes 7 seconds. The Sphinx lowered her face until her breath moved the edge of my jacket. Answer one riddle, courier of loud wheels, fail, and Queen Nefer receives you as a decorative warning. Can I deliver first and become decor after? Piper elbowed me. The Sphinx's smile widened. What has a tip, no hand, disappears when touched by pride, and ruins a man who climbs until his legs shake? For 1 second I expected ancient wisdom, then my whole soul got offended. A delivery tip, I said. The Sphinx blinked. I pointed at her. That is not a riddle, that is customer abuse with jewelry. Piper made a sound like someone had stepped on her foot. The Sphinx's ears flattened. It is a modern riddle. I have updated my art. You stole that from a bad app review. I did not. You absolutely did. The Sphinx rose higher, offended all the way down to her paws. The answer was correct. You may pass. No bonus for emotional damages? Her eyes gleamed gold. The stones under my shoes warmed. Piper grabbed my sleeve and pulled me through the arch before my mouth could turn us into matching statues. Behind us, the Sphinx muttered. It was a clever riddle. It was a workplace complaint, I called back. Something sniffed. I looked over my shoulder. The Sphinx was crying. Piper shoved me harder. Stop bullying immortal gatekeepers! She bullied me first with labor trauma? That was the first time Piper laughed. It was quick, angry, and gone almost immediately, but I heard it. More importantly, she heard herself do it. Her face tightened like laughter from a human courier was a disease she had caught. We reached a fork in the gold hallway. 3 passages opened under 3 carved suns. Each sun had different marks under it. Piper straightened. This is why Vulcan sent me. The left path honors dawn, the center honors noon, the right honors judgment. Queen Nefer's court uses dawn for guests. She stepped left. The floor dropped. Piper vanished. I grabbed for her and caught her wrist before she fell into a shaft full of white fire. The delivery box slammed against my back. The lenses inside rang once, high and dangerous. Piper dangled over the shaft, eyes wide for the first time since she appeared. Dawn for guests? I shouted. The marks are reversed. That feels like a thing to notice before the hole. Her fingers slipped. I planted one boot against the carved wall, locked both hands around her wrist, and pulled. The racing suit was still damaged from the Colossus fight, but it gave me one ugly burst of strength. Piper hit the floor on top of me, and a blade of sunlight snapped shut above the pit where her neck had been. The route timer said, 23 minutes, 42 seconds. Piper breathed once, twice. Then she shoved off me and stood too quickly. I knew the marks were old. You knew after the murder hole opened. Her face flushed. Queen Nefer changed the court script. Did she send a patch note? The hallway answered by closing the arch behind us. Then the walls began to glow. Piper looked at the 3 suns again. Her pride cracked just enough for fear to show through. If I misread the next seal, the light will bind us before we reach her. The delivery box heated against my back. I could have yelled at her. I wanted to. My shoulder still burned from catching her, and my whole career had become cleaning up powerful people's bad instructions. Instead, I unclipped the box and set it between us. Then read it slower, I said. I will be rude enough for both of us. Piper stared at me. What? You are not blaming me. I am absolutely blaming you. I am just doing it while alive. That got the second laugh. Smaller, but real. Then she crouched by the carved suns and dragged one finger under the marks without touching them. Not dawn, she whispered. Not guest. The script is older underneath. The top marks are false. The real one says debt paid enters by shadow. Shadow. I have. Debt paid I am working on. I put on the shadow helm. The left and center passages blazed shut. The right passage, the judgment passage, went dark. Piper looked at me like I had grown a useful second head. Move, she said. We ran. The right passage tried to kill us 3 times. Once with floor tiles that flashed white before sinking. Once with golden hands that reached from the walls for the delivery box. Once with a sunbeam that followed my shadow helm like it had taken the fake personally. Piper's voice kept us alive. Left tile. Now right. Duck. Do not touch the blue glass. Mason, your bag. Mason, down! I hated how useful she was. I loved it more. The final door opened into Queen Nephra's throne chamber with 5 minutes 18 seconds left on the timer. Queen Nephra sat on a high gold chair beneath a disk of white fire. Her hair was braided with tiny sun plates. Her eyes were lined in black, sharp enough to cut excuses into pieces. Around the chamber stood silent guards in linen and gold. At their feet were statues of men and women caught in mid-step, faces still awake behind polished stone. Decorative warnings. I handed the delivery box to Piper. If I become art, make sure I face away from the door. I don't want to greet people for eternity. Piper did not laugh this time. Queen Nephra lifted one finger. The box floated from Piper's hands to the base of the throne. Vulcan's lenses, the queen said. Sealed, warm, and late enough to irritate me. I looked at the timer. 5 minutes early. In my court, irritation begins at 10. Then your court needs therapy, Piper whispered. Mason. Queen Nephra's eyes turned to Piper. Sky nymph, you entered by the shadow path. Why? Piper's chin lifted, but her voice stayed careful. Because the dawn marks were false, Majesty. Your lower script named debt and shadow. The queen leaned forward. The statues along the wall seemed to listen. And who saw that? Piper swallowed. I did, after my first reading failed. There it was. Not an excuse, not a proud dodge. The truth, right in front of a queen who kept mistakes as furniture. Queen Nephra looked at me. And the courier did not abandon you? He insulted me, Piper said. I also pulled her up, I added. In that order emotionally, reverse order physically. The queen opened the delivery box. 7 forged lenses rose into the air. They caught the white fire above the throne and split it into 7 clean beams that struck the chamber walls. The old statues cracked. At first I thought we had failed. Then stone fell away from one hand. A man gasped. A woman dropped to her knees, breathing for the first time in who knew how long. The lenses were not for making new statues. They were for undoing old ones. Queen Nephra watched her frozen servants wake and did not blink. The courier window flashed. Route complete. Base reward, 8,000 points. Seal reading bonus, 5,000 points. Sphinx emotional damage surcharge, 2,000 points. Queen's restoration bonus, 10,000 points. Total, 25,000 points. I read the Sphinx line twice. I knew that was billable, I whispered. Piper covered her mouth with one hand. Queen Nephra's gaze moved between us. Vulcan said you were impossible. He understated it. I get that on reviews, I said. And the nymph? Piper stiffened. The queen smiled slightly. Useful. Once pride stopped steering. Keep her. Piper looked offended. I looked at the payment. I can keep her if she comes with a snack limit. Piper snapped. I am standing right here. That's why I said it clearly. Queen Nephra touched my courier window with one gold nail. Client reputation updated. Mason Reed, divine courier candidate. Candidate. Not official, not safe, but the words stuck in my chest anyway. The route pulled us back to Gray Harbor with the smell of sunfire still in our clothes. We landed 3 blocks from Lakeview Tower. For once, no monster chased me. No god threatened livestock magic. No guild villain tried to sacrifice anybody. I had points, cash, a living guide, and enough adrenaline to make a stupid decision feel reasonable. So I made one. I rode straight to Lakeview Tower. Piper sat behind me on the scooter, holding the new delivery box like it was diseased. Why are we going back to the Tower of the Rude Woman? Because rich people buildings have views, and I am tired of looking at my ceiling leak. You are buying a tower? Leasing a penthouse. Start smaller when mocking enemies. The lobby smelled like polished stone, flowers, and people who complained about delivery drivers. The same concierge who had ignored me dripping rain 2 days earlier looked up from the desk. His eyes dropped to my courier jacket, then to Piper, then to the bank approval on my phone. His posture changed so fast it almost made a sound. Mr. Reed, he said, the leasing office confirmed your deposit. Penthouse access is ready. Mr. Reed, not driver, not hey you, not use the service entrance. Mr. Reed. The elevator doors opened behind me. Evelyn Lyle stepped out carrying a tiny shopping bag that probably cost more than my old scooter. She saw me first, then Piper, then the concierge holding out a black access fob. Her smile became confused, which was richer than the rent. Mason? Evelyn said. Are you delivering here again? I took the fob from the concierge. Technically, I said, this one is a pickup. My keys. The concierge said, loud and perfect. Welcome home, Mr. Reed. The penthouse elevator is private, so you will not need the service stairs. Evelyn's face did a beautiful little collapse. My phone rang. Dennis Gable. Because the universe loved seasoning a meal, I answered on speaker. Dennis started with, Mason, I reviewed your account. If you apologize to the Lakeview client, I can put you back on limited premium routes next week. Evelyn heard every word. So did the concierge, so did Piper, who leaned closer like she had discovered free theater. I looked Evelyn in the eye. Dennis, I quit. There was a pause. Don't be emotional, Dennis said. You cannot afford that. I looked down at the penthouse fob in my hand, then at the elevator. Evelyn had made me climb around. I just leased the top floor of the building where you told me to learn from being lied about, I said. So here is the lesson. Never suspend the guy who might become your best customer. Dennis made a choking sound. What are you talking about? Send my final pay. If you hold it, I will buy Quick Cart's whole Gray Harbor route block just to make you explain tone to the new owner. Piper whispered. Can you do that? Not yet, I whispered back. Let him imagine it. Dennis went silent. Evelyn looked at the concierge. Is this real? The concierge did not even glance at me for permission. He smiled professionally. Mr. Reed is our new penthouse tenant. It did not fix every stair I had climbed for people like her. But Evelyn stepped aside when I walked toward the private elevator, and for that day, that was enough. Piper waited until the doors closed before she burst out laughing. You threatened to buy his company. I threatened to buy one piece of his company. Details weaken fear. You are shameless. You misread a murder hallway. We are both growing. The elevator rose without shaking. My ears popped. The doors opened into a penthouse with floor-to-ceiling glass, a kitchen bigger than my old apartment, and a view of Gray Harbor that made the whole city look like it owed me an apology. Piper walked to the window, suddenly quiet. Humans live like this? Some humans, I said. Usually the ones who make other humans climb stairs. She glanced back at me. And this is what you wanted? A high room? I wanted a lock no dispatcher could threaten, a shower that did not cough rust, and a window that reminded me Evelyn had to look up now. Piper studied that answer like it was another seal. Petty, practical petty. She set the delivery box on the counter and brushed one thumb over the fresh dent where the golden hands in Queen Nephra's hallway had grabbed it. Vulcan assigned me because your routes are spreading. I can leave after one job if I report you are impossible. And you are impossible. I waited. Piper looked out over Gray Harbor again. But you pulled me out of the sun pit before blaming me. You listened when I corrected the seal, and you made a sphinx cry over a bad riddle. That last one was public service. So I will stay, she said. For now. Snack limit? Daily tribute. Weekly. Daily. Or I tell Vulcan you called his lenses crispy statue equipment. I pointed at the kitchen. Top cabinet. Take one thing. If it costs more than my old rent, we renegotiate. Piper smiled like she had just won a war that mattered to nobody but her. That was the worst part of a partner. They cost money, then made the room less empty, which was harder to complain about. The courier window pinged before I could enjoy that thought for longer than 11 seconds. Medical collection route available. Client, Chiron. Pickup, Hydra venom sample. Drop off, Chiron. Base reward, 18,000 points. Pain relief bonus possible. I started smiling at the number. Then I noticed Piper had stopped laughing. Her face had gone flat and pale. Mason, she said carefully, do you know what Hydra means? I looked at the route, then at the reward. No, I said, but for $180,000, I am willing to be educated while running. Piper did not explain Hydra in the penthouse. She dragged the last candy bar from my top cabinet, shoved it into her pocket like emergency medicine, and said, we are not doing this route in your new kitchen. If Chiron hired you, he can explain why he wants you killed. That was how I learned my guide had two settings, insulting me and preventing my death through scheduling. The courier window pulled us from Lakeview Tower into a wide training ground under a bruised purple sky. White targets stood in a half circle. Broken spears lay in the grass. At the far end, a centaur waited beside a stone table covered in bandages, bronze bowls, and one empty glass vial. Chiron looked old without looking weak. His upper body was human, scarred and broad through the shoulders. His horse body was gray at the flanks. One back leg never touched the ground for more than a breath before pain pulled it up again. Piper bowed her head. Chiron. I looked at the empty vial. Please tell me this is a pharmacy pickup with weird branding? Chiron's eyes moved to me. Mason Reed, Vulcan says you complete impossible routes and complain at professional quality. I prefer accurate invoicing, then invoice me after you return. Chiron picked up the vial and held it out. I need one venom sample from Hydra. Fresh, unmixed, no more than 3 drops. Piper's hand snapped around my wrist before I could take it. You called this a collection route. It is, Chiron said. You did not say he has to walk into her cave. That is where she lives. You did not say the shadow helm may not work. Chiron looked at me carefully. The helm hides you from many eyes. Hydra has more than eyes. I stared at him. I am starting to miss rude customers. They lied smaller. Chiron did not smile. Hydra's venom once burned me beyond any cure. If this sample works, the pain ends. If it fails, I keep living with it. He said it plainly, but his fingers tightened around the vial. That was the first time I saw the root under the route. This was not about a sample. It was about an old wound that had outlived every apology. The courier window pulsed. Delivery window, 51 minutes. Pickup, Hydra venom, recommended item, shadow helm. Warning, concealment may fail under scent recognition. I took the vial. Piper stared at me. You cannot just accept every deadly errand because the number is large. I checked the number again. Base reward, 18,000 points. Pain relief bonus possible. I can, I said. I have a penthouse now. It eats money while I sleep. Chiron nodded toward a dark path beyond the targets. Do not threaten her. Do not call her beast. Do not mention trophies. Do not pretend you came bravely. Hydra respects honesty more than hero talk. Great. I am rich in fear and underqualified honesty. Piper snatched the vial from my hand long enough to wrap it in a strip of blue cloth. If she gives the venom, do not let it touch skin. If one drop gets into your blood, your bones will start arguing with each other. I hate how specific that is. Specific keeps you alive. The path dropped into a marsh cave where the air tasted like iron, rain, and old poison. I put on the shadow helm before the first bend. The world dimmed. Piper stayed close enough that her shoulder brushed the delivery box every few steps. She had stopped teasing. Somehow that made the cave worse. At the mouth of the inner cavern, the ground was covered in shed scales as big as dinner plates. Some were green, some black, some had burn marks from old weapons. Spears and cracked shields lay half-sunk in mud along the wall. Hunters? I whispered. Heroes, Piper whispered back. People love changing the word after they survive. The cavern opened. Hydra slept around a black pool. At first, my brain refused to understand her size. Coils of scaled body wound between stone pillars. Several necks lay across the ground like fallen trees. More vanished into the dark. Every head had closed eyes, but the teeth still showed. One fang was longer than my arm. The root arrow pointed to the pool at the center. The vial shook in my hand. Piper touched my sleeve. No sudden moves. I stepped forward. The shadow helm stayed cold and quiet. For 3 seconds, I thought we might actually do it clean. Then every head opened its eyes, not one after another. All at once, gold pupils turned toward me through the shadow helm. A voice filled the cavern. It came from every throat, but one mime sat behind it. Underworld rot, Hydra said. Dog spit, forge smoke, sun dust. And beneath all that, unfinished rain. My mouth dried. Piper's fingers tightened on my jacket. I remembered Pluto's road, Cerberus's breath, the broken rain smell when the bridge of clouds opened under me. The last phrase made no sense, so I treated it like every other impossible detail in my life. I ignored it until it became expensive. Hi, I said, delivery pickup. One head lowered until its eye filled the world in front of my visor. Chiron sent a courier. Chiron sent a very worried courier, I corrected. For venom. 3 drops. Fresh, unmixed, no bone arguments. Several heads hissed. Hydra's laugh was worse than a hiss. It scraped the ceiling. He still hurts. That did not sound happy. It sounded tired. Piper stepped half in front of me. Hydra, he did not come to insult you. Then why does he hide in the death god's toy? The shadow helm flickered on my head like it was offended and scared. I pulled it off. Piper whispered, Mason, she already smells my credit score. The helmet is just expensive denial. A head snapped close enough that venom dripped onto the mud near my boot. The mud smoked. Hydra studied my face. You are not a hero. No, you are not a hunter. Also no, you are afraid. Very. A smaller head slid behind Piper. It did not touch her. It only opened its mouth near her shoulder, slow enough to show every tooth. Piper froze. Hydra watched me instead of her. If I take the guide, will you run faster? My first thought was yes. My second thought was that Piper had pulled me through a royal murder hallway, corrected the real seal, and laughed at my terrible threats in my empty penthouse. That made her expensive, not emotionally, practically. Emotionally too, but I was not admitting that in a poison cave. I stepped between Piper and the head. My knees hated the decision. My mouth joined anyway. If you eat her, I said, I still need the venom, but the route gets awkward. Also, she owes me a snack budget negotiation, and I do not let clients kill people who owe me. Piper whispered, that is your defense? It is legally stronger than friendship. Hydra's head paused an inch from my cheek. One drop of venom slid from a fang and landed on an old bronze shield near my boot. The shield folded inward like wet paper. Heroes used to come here saying they would cleanse the world, Hydra said. Hunters came later saying they would protect the public. Now a courier says he wants money and a live guide. I did say that. Cleaner lie, Hydra said. Dirtier truth. The head withdrew from Piper's shoulder. Piper let out a breath she had been saving for a future life. Hydra turned back to me. Then why are you here? Money, I said. Piper made a tiny strangled noise even after almost being eaten. I lifted the vial, and because Chiron looked like every step was a knife, and I have had enough rich, strong, ancient people pretending pain makes them noble instead of cranky. The cavern went still. Hydra's closest head blinked. He told you his pain was noble? He said it plainly, which, from old powerful people usually means the wound has been winning for years. Another head lowered from the dark. This one had scars over one eye. Did he call me monster? No. Beast? No. Trial? I hesitated. Hydra saw it. The pool behind her bubbled. Piper whispered, Mason, carefully. I sighed. He called it a collection route, which was shady. But he also said not to threaten you, not to call you beast, and not to pretend I came bravely. Hydra looked away for the first time. Several heads folded back into the shadows. Then the body around the pool shifted. Scales pulled inward. Necks lowered. The impossible mass of serpent and fang drew tight around a bright green glow, and a woman stepped from the center of it. She was tall, barefoot, and wrapped in scale armor that moved like living water. Her hair fell in black-green ropes. Her eyes still held all the heads at once. Piper dropped her gaze. I did not, mostly because I was too scared to make sudden eye decisions. Hydra held out one hand. A small dark scale rested in her palm. Take this, she said. The Courier Window labeled it before I touched it. Hydra scale acquired. That is not venom, I said. No, Hydra said. It is proof I chose not to eat you. Chiron will understand the difference. I took the scale carefully. It was warm, heavy, and pulsed once against my palm like a second heartbeat. About the venom, I said. Her mouth curved, greedy, professionally consistent. Hydra walked to the black pool and dipped one claw into it. 3 drops rose, green-black and bright as poison jewels. They slid into the vial without touching the rim. The glass hissed. The blue cloth around it turned white. Tell Chiron, Hydra said, that old wounds do not heal because the old hero finally wants peace. They heal when he stops making the monster carry the whole story. I sealed the vial. That sentence sounded heavy enough to be a myth lecture, so I did what I do with heavy things. I made it awkward. Do you want me to quote that exactly or make it less likely he kicks me? Hydra stared at me. Then one of the heads behind her snorted. Another laughed. Soon the whole cavern shook with it. Quote it exactly, she said. If he kicks you, charge hazard pay. I like your management style. As we backed out, Hydra's human eyes followed me. Courier, she said. I stopped. The death smell under your fear is not only from Pluto's road. Piper went rigid beside me. I kept my face still because I had learned gods, queens, and monsters all loved it when mortals panicked on cue. Good to know, I said. I will add it to the list of things I cannot afford to understand today. Hydra smiled without warmth. Wise. The root pulled us out before Piper could ask the question sitting in both of our throats. Back at Chiron's training ground, the centaur was standing even though the bad leg shook under him. His eyes went first to the scale in my hand, then to the vial, then to my face. She gave both, he said, and a message. Piper looked at me like she wanted to stop me. I quoted Hydra anyway. Chiron did not move while I spoke. The wind crossed the grass. A target creaked in the distance. When I finished, his hand closed around the stone table until dust came off the edge. She said that, he asked, or you made it crueler. She said it. I make things shorter, not crueler, usually. Chiron stared at the vial. For a moment, I thought he would refuse it. Old pride has a smell too, not as dramatic as Underworld rot, but just as stubborn. Then Chiron took the vial and pulled the stopper with his teeth. Piper stepped back. I stepped back farther, because I had seen what one drop did to mud. Chiron drank all 3 drops. The reaction was immediate. Green fire ripped through his veins, his front legs buckled, his back legs slammed into the ground for the first time since I had arrived, and he screamed so hard the target split down the middle. Piper grabbed my arm. I moved forward anyway, because apparently I had learned nothing about standing mere ancient pain. Chiron's skin smoked. Old scars lit up. The wound in his back leg opened like a black mouth, then poured out poison so bright it left spots in my vision. Chiron! Piper shouted. He dropped to one knee. Then the fire went out. Silence hit the field. Chiron breathed once. His bad leg touched the grass. He put weight on it. Then more. Then he stood on all 4 legs. No shaking, no flinch, no hidden knife under the skin. The old centaur looked down at his own body like it belonged to someone else. He took one step, then another. Then he crossed the field. Each hoofprint hit clean. No hitch, no dragged line through the grass. He reached a fallen bough near the target line, picked it up, and drew without sitting, leaning, or hiding pain in his jaw. The string snapped back. The arrow split the center target, then the target behind it, then buried itself in the post at the far edge of the ground. Piper's mouth opened. Chiron stared at the bow like it had waited centuries to be used without punishment. Then he laughed. It was not the Forge God's laugh, not Pluto's dangerous laugh. Chiron's laugh broke open halfway and turned into something almost ugly, almost private, because relief is not dignified when it finally wins. Piper wiped her face quickly and pretended she had not. I looked away to give Chiron the same lie. He fired one more arrow. This one did not aim at a target. It flew toward the dark path, curved before the cave mouth, and planted itself harmlessly in the ground beside the entrance. A greeting, not a threat. That is for her, Piper said quietly. Good, I said, because if it was for me, the tip needs to triple. Piper hit my arm with the back of her hand, but she was smiling when she did it. Then Chiron turned toward the dark path and bowed his head. Hydra, he said, voice rough, even though she was not there to hear him. Thank you. The dark path stayed quiet. Then the courier window flashed. Route complete. Base reward 18,000 points. Hydra consent bonus 7,000 points. Pain relief bonus 20,000 points. Reconciliation catalyst bonus 5,000 points. Total 50,000 points. I nearly sat down. $500,000 in points. Chiron crossed the field to me without limping. That part made my throat do something rude. He pressed 2 fingers against my wrist. A small mark burned there, shaped like a drawn bow. The courier window labeled it. Chiron's bow mark acquired. Effect, 1 future shot guided true when protection is chosen over pride. That sounds like it comes with moral homework, I said. Chiron's eyes were still wet. Then do the homework when it matters. Piper leaned close and whispered, do not sell that. I was not going to sell a wrist mark. You looked at it like pricing was possible. Everything is possible with the right buyer. Chiron smiled then, small and tired and free. The field broke before I could make another joke. A red gate tore open above the targets. Heat blasted across the grass. A man in battered bronze armor hit the ground on one knee hard enough to dig a crater. Piper stepped behind me. Chiron's face changed. Mars! Mars, god of war, looked nothing like the calm murder statue I expected. He looked like a man who had lost a bet, a war, and his favorite car in the same hour. His red cloak was torn, his nose was bleeding. One hand clutched a wrapped sword longer than my leg. He pointed at me. Courier, Mars said. You, if this is about a delivery complaint, take a number. Mars crawled closer. Crawled. A war god crawled through grass toward my cheap boots. Grant Sutter is trapped inside Port Meridian Gate, Mars said. Ceiling spawn, sealed boss room, Sunspire line breaking. I backed him with borrowed points. If he dies before the sword reaches his hand, I lose more than money. I looked at Chiron. Chiron's face was grim. Piper whispered, Grant Sutter is Sunspire's master, the guild that saw you in the Underworld. Now I had a name for one of the men who had watched my scooter run from Cerberus. Mars shoved the wrapped sword toward me. Deliver this. Do not swing it. Do not let the slime touch it. Do not stop for guild politics. The sword was wrapped in red cloth, but even covered, it made the grass lean away. My delivery box popped open by itself, then tried to close again like it had changed its mind. Piper took 1 step back. That is not a normal artifact. Good, Mars snapped. A normal artifact is why Grant is losing. Chiron moved beside me on his heeled leg and set one hand near the wrapped hilt without touching it. Mars, tell him the catch. Mars's face twisted. There was always a catch. Divine clients treated catches like garnish. The boss room sealed after Grant entered, Mars said. Only a route holder can cross the delivery seam without opening the whole gate. If the seam closes, the sword arrives too late and Sunspire loses its master. That was not garnish. That was the plate being on fire. The courier window opened. Emergency artifact route available. Client, Mars. Cargo, Mars sword. Drop off, Grant Sutter, Port Meridian Gate boss room. Delivery window, 19 minutes. Base reward, 40,000 points. War god desperation bonus likely. Piper stopped breathing behind me. I looked at the sword, then at Mars still on one knee in the grass. You are begging a delivery guy, I said. Mars's jaw worked. Yes, that should have been enough. It was not. Say please. Chiron closed his eyes. Piper whispered, Mason, he is Mars. Mars lowered his head until his forehead nearly touched the grass. Please, the war god said. I accepted the route. The courier window swallowed the Mars sword into my delivery box and painted the timer across my vision. 18 minutes, 59 seconds. Mars grabbed my jacket before the gate opened. If Grant lives, I pay. If he dies, I blame you last, but loudly. I pried his fingers off one by one. If Grant lives, I said, you pay first, cry after. The route arrow snapped toward Gray Harbor's coast. Port Meridian Gate opened like a wound in the air. Behind me, Chiron stood on his healed leg, Piper's candy wrapper crinkled in her fist, and Mars stayed kneeling in the grass because war itself had just outsourced hope to a courier. That was when I knew the next route was not a delivery. It was a rescue, with a receipt. Port Meridian Gate did not let me arrive like a hero. It dropped me and Piper into a concrete emergency lot behind 3 screaming ambulances, 2 armored Sunspire trucks, and a line of American Gate Authority guards who looked at my scooter like I had brought a lawn chair to a hurricane. The gate rose ahead of us in the side of a shipping warehouse, a vertical wound of black water and green light. Every few seconds, slime slapped against the inside of it and slid down the barrier. Hunters staggered out covered in burns. One man's shield was melting around his arm. The courier window painted the timer across my visor. 17 minutes, 46 seconds. Drop off, Grant Sutter, sealed boss room. The Mars sword thudded inside my delivery box like it wanted to start a war without me. I pushed my scooter toward the barricade. A guard stepped in front of me. Authorized hunters only. I held up the courier window. Emergency delivery. He looked at the gold letters, then at my jacket. Courier access stops at the outer lot. Behind him, something inside the gate roared. The sound came through the barrier, wet and huge. A Sunspire hunter on a stretcher grabbed the guard's sleeve and gasped, "Grant's still in there! Mara too!" Ceiling Spawn took the room. That was how I learned the names. Grant Sutter, Sunspire Master. Mara Quinn trapped with him. The same guild that had seen me riding out of the Underworld was dying behind a guard who wanted paperwork. The timer hit 16 minutes, 58 seconds. I leaned toward the guard. "If the man in that room dies because you argued with a delivery label, I am putting your name on Mars's complaint form." "Mars?" the guard said. Piper tugged my sleeve. "Mason, the seam is shrinking." Past the barricade, the gate flickered. The route arrow narrowed from gold to orange. The guards still did not move. That was when Piper made the situation worse. She grabbed my phone. "Point shop, emergency entry. There has to be something faster than your broken scooter." "Do not buy anything," I said. A slime drop shot through the barrier, hit the ground beside us, and burst into smoking beads. Piper flinched. Her thumb hit the glowing prompt. "Combat bike purchased! Cost 24,000 points." For one clean second, nobody spoke. Then the ground opened under my scooter. My old scooter folded into gold light like the universe had finally decided it was too embarrassing to continue. In its place rose a black combat bike with red-lined tires, armored forks, and a delivery rack that looked like it could survive a missile strike and still keep soup upright. I stared at it. Piper stared at the cost. The guard stepped back. "You," I said to Piper very calmly, "just spent $240,000 of my life." It asked for confirmation while acid was falling. "It asked you because it smelled weakness." The combat bike growled. The Mars sword slammed once inside the new rack. The delivery clamp locked around it. The courier window flashed. "Seam integrity, 41%. The guard raised both hands and got out of the way. I swung onto the bike. Piper climbed on behind me before I could tell her to stay. "No," I said, "you are not coming into the boss room. I bought the bike. I am protecting my investment." It was my investment. Then drive before it becomes a memorial. I drove. The combat bike hit the gate like a punch. Cold slime wrapped around us. The world stretched. The sealed seam tried to reject anything alive, dead, or uninsured. The bike's front tire bit into a strip of gold route light and pulled us through. We burst into Port Meridian Gate. The inside was a drowned warehouse twisted into a cavern of pipes, catwalks, and hanging slime sacks. Green fluid dripped from the ceiling and ropes. The floor was full of broken Sunspire gear. The route arrow pointed through a tunnel where smaller slime creatures rolled and unfolded toward us like wet fists. Piper shouted over my shoulder, "They split when hit. Then I will hit them with a vehicle." That is still hitting. The first slime leaped. I leaned low, and the combat bike's front tire burned red. It did not smash the slime. It carved through it with heat. The creature split into 2 smaller blobs, but the tire burned the pieces before they landed. I pointed at the wheel. "Worth maybe 1 payment." "Only 1? Do not negotiate during monster traffic." We shot through the tunnel. Slime slapped the walls. 1 glob stuck to my sleeve and ate through the outer layer of the racing suit before I scraped it off against a pipe. The suit flashed a warning. Racing suit, cooldown integrity low, combat boost unavailable. A Sunspire hunter was pinned 20 yards ahead, half swallowed by a slime strand that had glued him to the wall. His helmet was cracked. His hands clawed at the strap across his chest, while 2 smaller blobs rolled toward his face. Piper leaned forward. "Mason, I see him." The route arrow pointed past him. The timer said 13 minutes, 22 seconds. Grant was the package destination. The pinned hunter was not. The old quick cart part of my brain, the part Dennis had trained with threats and late fees, knew the rule. Extra stops kill delivery time. Extra stops make customers angry. Extra stops are how you get blamed for being late to someone who never cared how many stairs you climbed. Then the hunter saw my delivery jacket and shouted, "Please!" That word kept ruining my profit margins. I swerved. The combat bike clipped the first blob with the burning front tire, cut under the slime strap, and dragged the strand off the wall in one smoking ribbon. The hunter dropped across the back of the bike behind Piper. She grabbed his armor before he rolled under the tire. "Outer seam!" I shouted at him. "Run when we pass the next split." He coughed, saw the Mars sword rack, and looked at me like he had just been rescued by a traffic violation. "Who are you?" "Late," I said. At the next tunnel fork, Piper kicked a loose pipe into the smaller blobs, and the hunter stumbled toward the exit light. He was alive because of a 6-second detour. The timer punished me for it anyway. 12 minutes, 41 seconds. Of course. I had a god's sword, a new bike, a guide who spent money like a bored prince, and no suit boost. The route arrow dropped us onto a catwalk above the boss room. Below, the ceiling-borne slime filled half the chamber. It hung from the roof like a living storm cloud made of acid gel. Hundreds of eyes opened and closed inside its body. Long strings of slime pinned Sunspire hunters to pillars. At the center of the room, Grant Sutter knelt on one knee with a broken sword in his hand. He was tall, bleeding from one temple, and still trying to stand between the boss and Mara Quinn. Mara was trapped against a cracked support beam, one arm wrapped in a slime strand. She saw us first. Her eyes went wide. "Grant!" Mara shouted. "The scooter courier!" Grant looked up. Even half dead, he recognized the delivery box before he recognized me. "You," he said. "Later," I shouted. "I have a package!" The boss shifted. A huge eye opened in the slime ceiling directly above the catwalk. Piper whispered, "Mason!" The eye fired a spear of green fluid. I dropped the bike off the catwalk. Piper screamed into my ear. The combat bike fell nose first toward the boss room, then its tires caught air like the route itself had become pavement. We slammed through the slime spear, burst out smoking, and crashed straight into the giant eye hanging from the ceiling. The eye exploded. Acid sprayed across the chamber. The bike hit the floor on both wheels, slid sideways, and stopped beside Grant hard enough to throw a wave of slime off his boots. For 1 second, the whole boss room stared at me. That reaction counted because it bought me one breath. I opened the delivery rack and pulled out the wrapped Mars sword. Grant reached for it. A slime strand shot down and wrapped his wrist. I kicked the strand with my boot. The combat bike's front tire burned red again, and I dragged his hand free under the heated wheel. Grant hissed in pain but did not pull back. "Package for Grant Sutter," I said. Mara, still pinned, shouted, "Cut him loose first!" I looked at the boss. Looked at the suit cooldown warning, looked at the Mars sword trying to shake out of the cloth. "I am not fighting that thing for free," I said. Grant stared at me like I had lost my mind. Piper slapped the back of my helmet. "Mason!" "What?" "The delivery is the win condition. We do not improvise unpaid heroics unless the receipt is impossible." A slime tentacle hammered the floor where we had been standing a second earlier. The combat bike slid us sideways. Grant grabbed the delivery rack to stay upright. I shoved the sword into his hand. "Sign after surviving," I said. The red cloth burned away. Mars' sword woke up. Calling it a sword felt rude. It was a line of red war light with a blade attached. The moment Grant's fingers closed around the hilt, the slime strands holding him boiled off. Red armor flared across his shoulders, thin and cracked but real. His eyes focused. Grant stood. The ceiling boss shrank back for the first time. Mara saw it and stopped struggling long enough to smile. "Took you long enough." Grant lifted the sword. "Blame the courier. I drove through a gate seam, bought a motorcycle by accident, and stabbed a ceiling eye with my whole body," I said. "Blame your god investor." Grant actually laughed. Then the boss dropped. Half the ceiling collapsed into a wave of acid slime. Grant moved like a man pulled by the blade. He cut once and the wave split around us. He cut twice and the slime strands holding Mara fell away. Piper grabbed Mara under the good arm and pulled her behind the combat bike. The boss opened its remaining eyes. All of them turned red at once. Piper shouted, "Core is above the mouth. It hides when the eyes close." Mara looked at her. "How do you know that? I read the ceiling marks while falling. You read while screaming. I multitask under terror." I hated that I was proud of her. Grant heard the warning. He waited for the eyes to blink. The boss lunged, mouth opening in the center of its body, and for half a second a hard green core showed above it. Grant threw the broken sword in his left hand. It lodged in the mouth. The boss froze to crush it. Mars' sword came down through the exposed core. The chamber turned red. Slime hit the walls in burning sheets. The strings holding the other Sunspire hunters snapped. The floor shook. The combat bike skidded backward and slammed into a pillar, but the delivery rack held. When the light faded, the ceiling-born boss was a smoking green stain across the floor. Grant stayed standing for 3 seconds. Then he dropped to one knee again, sword point buried in the stone. Mara crawled to him. "Grant," she said. He lifted one hand to show he was alive. The courier window flashed. Delivery confirmed. Mars sword received by Grant Sutter. Boss survival condition met. Client confirmation pending. Mars's voice exploded through the window before anyone else could speak. "Is he alive?" I turned the phone toward Grant. Grant, covered in slime, bleeding and holding a war god's sword, looked at my screen. "I am alive," he said. "Barely." Mars made a sound that was half victory roar, half gambling addict avoiding debt collectors. "Courier," Mars shouted, "I will never doubt you again until the next time you annoy me." "Payment," I said. Mara stared at me. Grant stared at me. Piper sighed like she had expected this exact word. Mars said, "Now? Your hunter is alive now. Your boss is dead now. My bike is smoking now. So yes." The courier window flashed. Route complete. Base reward, 40,000 points. Seam breach bonus, 10,000 points. Boss room entry bonus, 15,000 points. War god desperation bonus, 20,000 points. Total, 85,000 points. I saw the number and forgave Piper for 24,000 points. Not allowed, never allowed. Mars's voice dropped into a proud rumble. "And because I pay my debts, I grant you a rare war treasure." A small wooden baton dropped out of the gold light and bounced once off my handlebar. I picked it up. It was plain cedar, smooth, and absolutely not shaped like $850,000. The courier window labeled it, "Cedar baton acquired. Classification, rare." I turned it over. "Mars," I said, "this is a stick. A sacred stick. It has the energy of a souvenir from a campground gift shop. You will thank me later." That is what cheap clients say when the tip is emotional. Mars cut the connection. Grant coughed, then laughed so hard he had to lean on the Mars sword. A few Sunspire hunters blinked. One wounded man gave a weak laugh, then another. The fear in the boss room cracked into something uglier and more useful. Belief. They had seen me in the Underworld as a mystery. Now they saw me arguing with a war god over a stick while their guildmaster bled on the floor because a delivery had saved him. Mara looked from the combat bike to my delivery jacket. "Who are you?" I clipped the cedar baton to my belt because throwing divine gifts away felt unsafe even when they deserved it. "Mason Reed," I said. "Divine Courier." The title came out before I decided whether I deserved it. The courier window glowed once, as if the words had been heard somewhere important. Grant rose with Mara's help. He handed Mara's sword back toward my delivery rack, but the blade dissolved into red sparks before touching it. "It was not meant to stay," Grant said. "Good," I said. "I charge storage." He studied me with the kind of focus that made guild leaders rich and annoying. "Sunspire needs people who can cross impossible routes. Join us. Salary, armor, gate clearance, medical coverage, a proper vehicle, whatever number quick card paid you, I will bury it." The old Mason would have asked him to repeat medical coverage. The current Mason had 85,000 fresh points, a penthouse, a guide eating my candy, and a combat bike that had technically saved everyone after assaulting my savings. "No," I said. Grant blinked. Mara did not. She smiled like she had already guessed. Grant said, "No, I do not need another boss. I need clients." Piper stepped beside me, still streaked with slime, and added, "He is very difficult as an employee concept." "Correct," I said. "But as a contractor, I am expensive and alive." Grant looked at the smoking boss stain, then at the hunters his guild was dragging free, then at the delivery rack where Mars' sword had vanished. His pride fought his intelligence. Intelligence won by a bloody inch. "Fine," Grant said. "Sunspire hires you by route, retainer, success fee, no employment leash." "That sounds like a contract." "It is." "Then make the first line say you pay even if a god gives me a stick." Mara laughed first. A few injured hunters followed. Grant rolled his eyes, but he did not say no. The gate seam opened behind us as the boss room cleared. Before we left, Grant caught my sleeve. Not hard, he had learned fast. "The hunter in the tunnel," Grant said. "You stopped for him. Your hallway was messy. You lost time. I delivered anyway." Grant looked toward the tunnel where the rescued hunter had disappeared. His expression tightened in a way that did not feel like guild politics. It felt like a man counting how close he had come to owing more funerals than speeches could cover. "Sunspire remembers that," he said. "Remember it in dollars." Mara snorted. "He never lets a moment breathe, does he?" Piper answered before I could. "Only if breathing is billable." I pointed at her. "Partner language is supposed to support the brand." "I am supporting accuracy." Grant watched us argue with an expression I could not read then. It looked like the first moment he stopped trying to classify me as a recruit, asset, or threat and started treating me like the worst kind of vendor, the one you need. What mattered was that his next words sounded less like an order. Then send your rate, Grant said. The gate seam opened behind us. Outside, the American Gate Authority guard who had blocked me earlier stared at the smoking combat bike, the rescued Sunspire master, and my courier jacket. His voice came out much smaller. You still enter without a hunter license. I stared at him. Piper stared at him. Mara, still bleeding, stared at him. Grant lowered Mara's sword's fading hilt until it pointed at the ground between the guard's boots. The guard swallowed. I am required to say that. Congratulations, I said. You survived your job description. He stepped aside. That should have been the end of it. But as I rolled the combat bike into the emergency lot, another guard pointed at a posted access rule, and my route arrow flickered red because I had no official hunter clearance. The gate had almost sealed me out on the way in. Next time, it might not care who was dying inside. Grant saw me looking at the sign. Take the exam, he said. American Gate Authority license. You do not have to join a guild, you just need the card. I do not test well, I said. Mara raised an eyebrow. You drove through a sealed boss room and argued payment with Mars. Exactly. My strengths are practical. Official rooms bring out my worst face. The guard, apparently determined to keep almost dying socially, said, without a license, your access can be denied at any public gate, emergency route or not. I looked at the black wound of Port Meridian Gate. If that seam had closed 30 seconds earlier, Grant would have died behind a rule board. If Piper had not bought the bike, if the guard had held the barricade 1 minute longer, if the route had chosen any poorer fool without a point shop balance, Mars would have been screaming at a corpse. That was not a lecture. That was math with blood in it. I hated that Grant was right. I looked at Piper. She was wiping slime off my new bike with a Sunspire towel like she owned shares in the mistake. Fine, I said. I will take the exam. Piper smiled. You? In an official test? I can act average for one afternoon. Mara looked at the boss room behind me, the melted delivery rack, and the cedar stick on my belt. Can you? She asked. The Courier Window pinged with an American Gate Authority testing notice before I could answer. I looked at the notice, then at my burned sleeve, then at the combat bike Piper had accidentally bought. I had become the divine courier in a boss room. Now I needed a government card so I could keep doing illegal miracles without guards interrupting the invoice. The American Gate Authority exam was supposed to make my life boring for one afternoon. That was the lie I told myself while standing in a concrete testing hall between a nervous college kid with a rented spear and a woman polishing a shield like she expected applause. Piper sat on the spectator bench with a paper bag of pastries she had bought using my card, because apparently moral support needed frosting. Grant Sutter had sent the exam notice the morning after Port Meridian. Temporary access review scheduled. Hunter license recommended for independent gate contractors. Recommended meant blocked next time. Blocked next time meant someone died while a guard read a sign. So, I went. The examiner at the front checked my name. His eyes dipped to my courier jacket, then to the combat bike parked behind the safety rail. Mason Reed, he said. Occupation? Courier. He waited. I waited better. He wrote something on his tablet and said, prior guild affiliation? No. Combat school? No. Documented gate clearances? Depends who documented the panic. Piper shoved half a pastry into her mouth and looked away so she would not laugh. The examiner's pen stopped. This is a serious test. Good, I said. I only came because unserious paperwork almost killed Grant Sutter. That name changed the room. Not with gasps. With posture. The woman with the shield stopped polishing. The spear kid looked at my jacket again. 2 guards near the wall whispered and immediately pretended they had not. The examiner cleared his throat. The American Gate Authority tests basic survival reflex, monster response, and controlled force. You only need a low-level license for gate entry as a contractor. Do not overperform. I loved instructions that matched my plan. Average, I said. That is my whole brand today. Piper choked on pastry. The first test was reflex dodging. A training frame launched padded darts while floor tiles flashed red before they shocked the person standing on them. The spear kid went before me. He dodged 3 darts, got clipped by 1, and received polite applause. I walked into the frame and told the racing suit under my jacket to behave. The suit did not answer because it was clothing. Then the first dart fired. My body moved before my pride did. I slipped sideways, stepped over a red tile, ducked a second dart, caught the third out of the air by accident, and realized too late that everyone had gone quiet. The examiner looked at the dart in my hand. I dropped it. Reflex spasm. Medical maybe. Piper put both hands over her face. The examiner said, again! The frame doubled speed. I tried to get hit. I honestly did. I let my shoulder lag. I kept my feet heavy. I thought average thoughts. The racing suit treated average like an insult. My boots skimmed over red tiles without touching them. My hand slapped one dart aside, my elbow knocked another into the wall, and one stupid little sidestep made me look like I had rehearsed arrogance in a mirror. The shield woman muttered, "Who is this guy?" I pointed at my jacket. Clearly a delivery worker who should not be trusted near athletic equipment. The examiner's face had gone tight. "Monster response station. That should have been safer." The monster response station used a projected test beast. Not a real gay creature. Not a boss. Just a hard light training monster that looked like a gray goblin with too many elbows. The goal was simple. Dodge, tag the center marker, stop before the damage limit. I stepped into the circle. The fake goblin lunged. I planned to tap it. The racing suit read the motion as a threat. My fist moved 1 inch farther than a tap. The goblin vaporized. Not faded, not deactivated, vaporized. The center marker behind it cracked. The shock wall behind the marker cracked too. A red alarm blinked across the ceiling. The examiner stared at the empty circle. The spear kid whispered, "That was the basic monster?" I looked down at my fist. "I would like to file a complaint against my sleeve." The examiner did not laugh. He pointed at the last station like I had personally insulted the building code. "Controlled force. Touch the pressure plate. Do not break the pressure plate." A steel plate rose from the floor. It had a green circle in the middle and 3 thick support arms behind it. The spear kid had touched it earlier and made 1 yellow light blink. The shield woman had hit 2. Average. Finally, I walked over, lifted 1 finger, and tapped the green circle. The plate folded backward, not shattered. Folded. Like a giant hand had bent a stop sign. 1 support arm snapped. The second arm screamed. The third arm held for half a second, then gave up with a sad metallic pop. The pressure plate slammed into the wall behind it and left a round dent in the concrete. The hall went silent. I turned to the examiner. "That was finger strength. That should count as controlled." A guard near the wall whispered, "Is that the Port Meridian courier?" Another guard answered, "Shut up, he can hear you." I could hear him. More important, he knew I could hear him. The same kind of uniform that had blocked me at a dying gate was now trying not to make eye contact with my index finger. That was not justice. It was not even revenge. It was useful. The examiner rubbed his forehead. "Force control is unstable." "I agree. Give me the low-level card and I will leave before the furniture unionizes." Piper slid lower on the bench, laughing silently into her pastry bag. The examiner's tablet chimed. A big blue score appeared on the overhead board before anyone could stop it. "Candidate, Mason Reed, force control, unstable." Survival response, national top bracket. Practical gate clearance, approved. License class, independent hunter contractor, provisional high-risk clearance. The room changed again. This time, it was not just posture. It was greed. The shield woman looked at my hands like they had a price tag. The spear kid looked betrayed by the concept of training. The guards at the wall stopped pretending not to whisper. The score did not make the win. The shattered target had already done that. The score only made it official enough for vultures. My phone buzzed. American Gate Authority license issued. The little digital card glowed under my name. It was ugly, official, and somehow the most expensive permission slip I had ever earned. Not because of the fee. Because every second spent proving I deserved to enter a gate was a second some monster could use to chew through a client. That was all I needed. Gate access. No team jacket. No guild leash. No training seminars with men who said synergy around swords. I turned to leave. Vivian Knox stepped into my path. She wore a white coat over black armor, same as the mountain gate, except now there was no green fire behind her and no recruit screaming under her hand. 2 iron serpent hunters stood behind her like expensive furniture with pulse rates. Piper stopped laughing. Vivian smiled at me as if she had not once ordered me used as replacement sacrifice fuel. "Mason Reed," she said, "congratulations." I looked at the examiner. "Is attempted human sacrifice a disqualifying hiring practice here, or is that a premium guild benefit?" Vivian's smile did not move. The examiner suddenly found his tablet fascinating. "Iron Serpent made a hard call in a collapsing gate," she said. "You saw 1 minute of a larger operation. I saw enough to know your benefits package includes glowing murder rope." A few candidates heard that. Vivian heard them hear it. Her smile tightened by 1 hair. "Good. Public rooms were useful when villains came with branding." She lifted 1 gloved hand. One of her hunters opened a thin black case. Inside sat a contract tablet, a metal guild badge, and a number large enough to make my old rent cry. $60 million, Vivian said. "Signing bonus. Immediate. Iron Serpent can bury whatever Sunspire promised and give you real protection." There it was. Fake authority wearing money perfume. The old Mason would have passed out. The current Mason checked the number, then looked back at her. "That is the whole offer?" Vivian's eyes cooled. "That is more than most hunters earn in a lifetime." Grant Sutter's emergency route retainer is 75 million before success fees, I said, and he did not ask to own my mornings. The Iron Serpent hunter holding the case blinked. Vivian's smile died. I leaned closer and lowered my voice just enough that she and the nearest candidates could still hear it. Is Iron Serpent broke? I asked, or do you only underpay people before sacrificing them? The spear kid made a choking sound. The shield woman looked at the floor, but her shoulders shook. Vivian shut the case herself. That tiny click was worth more than the contract. You are making enemies too quickly, she said. No, I said, enemies keep introducing themselves, I just keep invoicing. Piper hopped off the bench and stepped beside me with the pastry bag under one arm. We are leaving before he starts negotiating with your embarrassment. Vivian's gaze moved to Piper. Your guide has a leash, Courier? Piper's smile went bright and mean. No, I have access to his snack cabinet and poor impulse control. It is stronger. I loved that answer and hated what it would cost me. The courier window pinged before Vivian could turn the room uglier. Priority C route available. Client, Jason, Argo Freight, Cargo, Stormflare Charm. Objective, deliver to lead beacon and clear siren blockade from C route. Base reward, 60,000 points. Hazard bonus likely, freight survival bonus likely. A small client note unfolded below it. Sirens have already taken 3 crews. Bring ear protection. Do not trust singing. I looked at Piper. She looked at the note. Then she looked at Vivian and smiled again, because apparently she preferred sea monsters to Iron Serpent networking. Average afternoon? She asked. I passed average 10 minutes ago, I said. Now I am working. Jason met us at the Gray Harbor Sea Gate with a face full of salt, fear, and expensive desperation. He was not dressed like a hunter. He wore a weather jacket over an Argo Freight uniform, and his hands shook when he passed me the charm. It was a bronze disc wrapped in red thread. My courier window called it cargo, my skin called it bad news. Beyond him, the sea gate churned inside a cargo warehouse. Water floated upright in the air behind the gate membrane, dark and full of moving silver shapes. Freight crews stood near the loading line with wax plugs in their ears and terror in their shoulders. Jason pointed at the gate. The lead beacon is drifting. If the charm reaches it, the route stabilizes. If the sirens keep the blockade, Argo loses the lane and the 4th crew dies before nightfall. You hired a courier to clear monsters? I asked. I hired the divine courier, Jason said. Your rate said impossible addresses cost extra. Piper glanced at me. You have a rate sheet? Grant made me write one after Port Meridian. It has colors, Jason swallowed. Can you do it? I looked at the upright water. Something pale pressed a hand against the other side, then slid away. I should have said no. Then the courier window added a line. Partner route support eligible. Piper Vale may enter as guide. Piper grabbed my sleeve. I am not bait. Nobody said bait, I said. The route added another line. Siren attention may prioritize mythic voice targets. Piper stared at the window. I stared with her. Now it said bait, I admitted. Jason looked between us. If your guide cannot come, we can send a crewman with you. From inside the gate came a thin song. One of the freight workers, wax plugs and all, took one slow step toward the water. Another worker grabbed him and slapped him hard enough to bring him back. Piper's face changed. Annoyance left. Fear stayed. Under it came the same stubborn look she had worn in Queen Nephra's hallway after nearly falling into Sunfire. I can hear route marks under songs, she said. If I stay outside, you drive blind. If you go inside, they target you, then drive rudely. That was my line. Hearing her use it made the decision worse. I bought ear seals from the point shop for both of us and spent 2,000 points to make my own job less stupid. Then I looked at the cedar baton hanging from my belt. Mars had called it rare. Maybe rare meant useful. I pulled it free. Piper looked at the plain stick. Is that your plan? This is a sacred war treasure. It looks like a table leg that lost ambition. Tell Mars. We entered the sea gate on the combat bike. Water closed around us without drowning us. The bike's tires found a glowing path just under the surface, a road made of pressure and bad promises. The ear seals muffled the first layer of song, but the second layer slid through my teeth. The sirens swam beside the route. They looked almost human until they smiled. Pale arms, silver hair, eyes like black pearls, mouths full of narrow teeth. They circled the bike, singing through the water, pointing at Piper with fingers too long for kindness. Piper held the Stormflare charm against her chest and read the glowing marks around the beacon path. Left, she said, then low, then do not follow the woman crying. That is not a woman. A shape sobbed in the current ahead. I did not follow it. It turned, opened a mouth wider than its whole face and shrieked. The bike bucked. A siren slammed into my side. I swung the cedar baton at her head. It made a polite wooden bonk. The siren blinked. I blinked back. Then she laughed in my face. Rare stick, I shouted through the ear seal. Very intimidating. She clawed the delivery rack. Piper kicked her hand away and shouted, "Beacon ahead!" The lead beacon floated in the current, a black iron post wrapped in singing bodies. Behind it, I saw a freight boat caught sideways in the sea lane. Men clung to the rail with wax in their ears and blood on their faces. Jason's fourth crew. The storm flare charm heated in Piper's hands. A voice deeper than the rest rose from below. The Siren Queen surfaced under the bike. She was huge, beautiful in the way knives are beautiful, with a crown of shells and bones woven into her hair. Her song punched through the ear seals like they were paper. My hands loosened on the handlebar. For 1 second, I saw Evelyn's door open again, not because of magic memory, because the song knew humiliation tasted better when it used familiar rooms. Piper slapped the back of my helmet. "Mason!" The Queen's tail struck the bike. We flipped. Piper flew off with the storm flare charm in both hands. The Queen's arms wrapped around her and dragged her toward the beacon. The courier window flashed red. Partner in mortal danger. Recommended item, Thunder Orb. Cost, 32,000 points. I almost screamed at the price. Then Piper's face went under the water road, and the Siren Queen opened her mouth over Piper's throat. I bought the Thunder Orb. A blue-white sphere dropped into my hand. Lightning crawled over my glove and into my bones. The point shop added one more awful line. Racing Suit Stage 2 Strike available for 18,000 points. Warning, nerve backlash. You greedy little window, I said. The Queen pulled Piper closer. I paid. The racing suit tore awake under my skin. Not comfortable, not clean. It felt like every muscle had been charged with stolen lightning and then blamed me for it. Red lines on my sleeves turned white. The combat bike righted itself under me like a shark choosing murder. I drove straight down. Sirens swarmed. I crushed the Thunder Orb in my fist. Lightning exploded through the water. The smaller sirens convulsed away from the beacon. The freight boat snapped free of half its bindings. The Queen screamed without letting go of Piper. Piper, because she was apparently insane and useful, shoved the storm flare charm into the Queen's open mouth. The charm burned gold behind the Queen's teeth. "Mason!" Piper shouted. I hit the Queen with a Stage 2 strike. My fist drove through lightning, song, and water pressure, straight into the glowing charm inside her mouth. The thunder met the storm flare. The sea gate became daylight. When the light cleared, the Siren Queen was sinking in pieces of silver ash. The lead beacon blazed gold. The trapped freight boat surged forward through the freed lane while its crew sobbed into each other's jackets. Piper floated above the bike, one hand still smoking, hair wild around her face. I caught her by the back of her travel leathers before the current could take her. She coughed water into my helmet. "You bought another expensive thing! You shoved cargo into a monster's mouth. It worked. That is not a legal defense." The courier window flashed. Route complete. Base reward, 60,000 points. Freight survival bonus, 20,000 points. Siren Queen defeat bonus, 30,000 points. Partner rescue bonus, 15,000 points. Total, 125,000 points. My hand still shook from the Stage 2 backlash, but the number helped. A lot. The route threw us back into the Gray Harbor warehouse. Jason fell to his knees when the surviving crew came through after us. One worker kissed the concrete floor. Another pointed at Piper and said she had burned the Queen from inside. Piper tried to stand straight. Her knees disagreed. I caught her before she fell. Jason pressed his thumb to my courier window again like he feared the money would vanish if he blinked. "Argo Freight owes you more than points," he said. "Start with food," Piper whispered. I looked at her wet hair, smoking sleeve, and hands still clenched like she was holding the charm. "Fine," I said. "Feast. My treat. If you order something with gold on it, I leave you with Jason." Piper smiled with all her teeth. Define gold. That night, she ate crab, steak, 2 desserts, and a tower of fried things nobody could identify after the sauce landed. I let her. The Siren Queen's handprint had left bruises on her throat. Every time my eyes went there, my appetite got smaller and the bill got less important. She caught me looking once. "Do not get sentimental," Piper said. "I am calculating property damage. You are my most expensive route accessory." "Partner." I stopped with my fork halfway up. She said it like a correction, not a request. I nodded once. "Partner." The courier window waited until the dessert plates were empty before pinging again. Client message, Grant Sutter, Sunspire Guild. I opened it. Grant's voice came through low and sharp. "Mason, I need a sealed artifact moved through Glasswell Harbor Cargo Terminal. Legendary weapons are disappearing from American ports, and the next shipment is bait. You wanted client work instead of employment. Here it is." A route card unfolded under his message. Sealed artifact shipment. Sunspire Black Card access authorized. Theft risk, extreme. Piper looked at the word theft, then at the bruises on her own hand, then at me. "We are not done eating," she said. I checked the reward line. Then I signaled the server for a box. "We are now," I said. Someone is stealing legendary weapons, and Grant just made it billable. Grant Sutter's sealed artifact shipment began with a black card, 2 armed guards, and Piper telling me not to look impressed. That was impossible. The Sunspire black card was heavier than my old phone. It opened the private side gate at Glasswell Harbor Cargo Terminal with one clean beep, and every guard who had been ready to question my courier jacket suddenly remembered manners. One guard even said, "This way, Mr. Reed." I looked at Piper. "Hear that? Do not marry a card reader," she said. "I am just saying, respect has a magnetic strip." The cargo terminal smelled like salt, diesel, wet rope, and money trying to hide inside crates. Grant had not come in person. He had sent a Sunspire handler with a sealed steel case and a face that said he hated subcontractors. The case sat on a loading table under 3 layers of chain. A sword shape pressed against the inside velvet, wrapped in gray cloth with red seals. The courier window labeled it only as sealed legendary sword, which annoyed me, because mystery cargo usually meant someone else knew why I was about to get stabbed. The handler spoke fast. "You take the case from this dock to the Sunspire vault truck on the other side of the terminal." No stops, no detours, no opening the seals. I looked across the terminal. The truck was maybe 400 yards away. Grant is paying my route rate for a walk across a dock? The handler's jaw tightened. 4 legendary weapons have vanished from American ports this month, none from Glasswell yet. We intend to keep it that way. So I am bait. The sword is bait. Piper leaned toward me. In stories, that means both. The courier window opened. Artifact escort route active. Client, Grant Sutter, Sunspire Guild. Pickup, Glasswell Harbor Cargo Terminal. Drop-off, Sunspire Vault Truck. Cargo, sealed legendary sword. Base reward, 25,000 points. Theft prevention bonus available. I read the distance again. 400 yards for $250,000 in points. That was either the easiest money of my life or the universe putting a banana peel in front of a guillotine. I clipped the case to the combat bike's delivery rack. The new rack locked with 3 gold teeth. Piper walked on my right, sniffing the air like she was trying to insult the atmosphere before it attacked. "What do you smell?" I asked. "Salt, steel, old oath marks, cheap coffee, and someone trying too hard to smell like nobody." That last one sounds like a thief. It sounds like 3 thieves and 1 lecture. The first 200 yards were nothing. No attack, no song, no colossus, just guards, forklifts, and the combat bike rolling slowly enough to offend itself. Then the lights blinked. Every guard in the aisle dropped at once. Not dead. Breathing. Sleeping so hard one of them hit the ground face first and did not even curse. A pale gas rolled under the cargo shelves. Piper slammed a blue cloth over my mouth before I could inhale. "Sleet gas. Hold your breath." I held it. A figure dropped from the crane above us. She landed on the combat bike's front tire like gravity had signed a private contract with her. Black coat, short dark hair, silver mask over the lower half of her face, one hand already on the steel case. I grabbed her wrist. She looked at my hand, then at my face. "You are awake," she said. Her voice was calm, almost offended. I tried to answer through the cloth, remembered breathing mattered, and headbutted her instead. The mask cracked. She flipped backward, kicked off a cargo shelf, and landed 6 feet away with a little silver ring spinning between her fingers. The case was still locked to my rack, but one side seal flickered. Piper pointed. "Mason, ring." The thief smiled with her eyes. "I prefer Sadie Cross, honest thief." I yanked the cloth away and took the smallest breath possible. "Honest thief is just regular thief with a speech budget." Sadie bowed like the insult had been decent. "I only steal from people who should not keep what they have." That is every thief's second favorite sentence. First is, "I can explain." She flicked the ring. The steel case lock hissed. The courier window flashed red. "Cargo seal interference." Piper moved before I did. She threw one of her sugar sticks at Sadie's face. Sadie dodged, because apparently even thieves took candy threats seriously, but that half-step gave me time to open the point shop. Recommended item glowed at the top. Arachne rope. Binds living targets under contract pressure. Weak against oath-cutting tools. Strong against smug speeches. Cost, 9,000 points. I bought it. A silver-black rope shot from the courier window and wrapped around Sadie's arms, waist, and legs before she finished her next clever movement. She hit the ground hard, rolled once, and found herself tied to a dock post. Piper smiled. "Strong against smug speeches. Accurate." For the first time, her calm broke. "You have route tools," she said. "You have sleep gas. We all brought hobbies." A crane alarm started behind us. Piper spun first. One of the hanging cargo pallets, the size of a small car, had started sliding loose over the sleeping guards. Sadie had cut a release cable before she dropped. The pallet swung once, then began to fall. Piper cursed in a language that made the nearest light flicker. "Mason!" The sealed sword was still locked to my rack. Sadie was bound. The falling pallet was not my cargo, not my route, and not my problem if I wanted to be the kind of worker Quickcart had tried to build. One guard lay directly under it, snoring through the gas. I kicked the combat bike sideways. The front tire burned red. The bike rammed the pallet mid-drop, knocked it off angle, and sent it smashing into a stack of empty crates instead of the guard's skull. Wood burst everywhere. The guard slept through his own rescue, which felt personally insulting. Sadie watched me through the smoke. "You chose the guard," she said. "I chose not to clean guard paste off my tires. That sword is going to people who think every powerful object belongs in a guild vault. And your answer is theft with nap gas? My answer is stopping worse thieves before they get official uniforms." Piper stepped between us, eyes narrowed. "She is trying to make you argue until the ring finishes cutting." Sadie's smile returned. Too late, I saw the rope near her wrist smoking. I checked the case, the sword was still inside. One side compartment, smaller than my palm, hung open, empty. "What did you take?" I asked. Sadie's eyes shifted to her closed fist. I stepped closer. She pulled her fingers open. "Nothing." Piper said, "Illusion. Other hand." Sadie laughed. "Good guide." The ring gleamed on her other palm, not the one she had spun. A smaller one, dull gray, with a winged mark cut so fine it almost hid from sight. I reached for it. Sadie twisted her thumb against the ring. The arachne rope snapped once, not breaking, but loosening just enough for her to slip one shoulder. A hidden blade flashed from her sleeve and cut the dock post behind her. The rope tightened again, but now it was binding the post, not her. She rolled under the combat bike, came up behind Piper, and tossed a smoke pellet into my face. I caught only her coat. She caught my wrist. For 1 second we were close enough that I saw the cracked edge of her silver mask and the bruise under one eye. Sadie whispered, "Not every stolen weapon should go where a guild points it. Try a complaint form. Forms are for people who own doors." That line landed harder than I wanted. Then she shoved me backward, vaulted onto a moving forklift, and vanished into the sleep gas as the terminal alarm finally woke up. The small ring was gone. The sealed sword was not. A token hit the concrete at my feet. I picked it up with 2 fingers. It was round, warm, and stamped with the same winged mark as the ring. The Courier Window labeled it before I could ask. Mercury token acquired, no route opened, no explanation, just the name, the warmth, and the feeling that the Courier Window had gone very still. Piper stared at it. Mercury is a messenger god, trick paths, thieves, crossroads. So my thief dropped a messenger token while stealing from a sword shipment. Great, the crime has branding. The Sunspire handler woke up choking on the floor. He saw the open side compartment and went white. "The sword!" he gasped. "I slapped the steel case. Still here." He grabbed for it. I moved it out of reach. "Delivery first," I said. Panic after signature. We completed the last 200 yards with guards stumbling awake behind us, Piper watching every shadow, and the Mercury token burning in my pocket like a question that did not want an answer yet. At the vault truck, a Sunspire lock accepted the case. The sword slid into the armored compartment untouched. Grant's voice came through the truck speaker. "Mason?" "Sword delivered," I said. "Thief escaped with a smaller ring from the side compartment. Also left me a Mercury token, which I am assuming is not a casino chip." Grant went silent for 2 beats. That silence counted because it changed the job from theft to something bigger. "Keep the token," Grant said. "Do not hand it to any guild handler. I will pay the completed route and mark the missing ring as a separate problem." Separate problems have separate invoices, I assumed. The Courier Window flashed. Route complete. Base reward, 25,000 points. Theft prevention bonus, 15,000 points. Cargo integrity bonus, 10,000 points. Total, 50,000 points. Piper exhaled. We kept the sword, and lost the mysterious ring, which was not our cargo. That is the kind of sentence that makes future cargo worse. The Courier Window agreed by pinging immediately. Divine warning route available. Client Freya. Pickup, sealed warning letter. Drop off, hell. Base reward, 500,000 points. Survival bonus available. Cold weather equipment recommended. I read the base reward 3 times. 500,000 points, $5 million. Piper saw my face and said, "No. You do not know what I was going to say. You were going to say yes with your whole greedy skeleton." Freya appeared in the cargo terminal before I could deny it. One moment there was sleep gas, alarm lights, and guards pretending they had not been defeated by air. The next, a woman in a feathered cloak stood beside the combat bike with a sealed white letter in one hand and war in her eyes. The whole terminal seemed to make room for her. "Mason Reed," Freya said. "Hell must receive this before the Black Bridge freezes shut. Gods cannot cross this warning without breaking old law. You can." I charge extra when clients say law instead of details. Freya held out the letter. "Then survive and be overpaid." Piper whispered, Helheim is not a place for living couriers. Good, I said, taking the letter. I have been called worse than living today. The point shop forced a recommendation before the gate opened. Wolf fur coat, resists realm cold and spirit bite, does not warm pride, cost 22,000 points. I bought it and hated how good it felt. The coat dropped over my shoulders, gray, white and heavy, warmer than any rent-controlled apartment I had ever had. Piper touched the sleeve. This is real northern wolf fur. It costs real northern money. Freya's route pulled us from Glasswell into a land of black snow. Helheim did not scream. It waited. A bridge of dark ice stretched over a river that moved without sound. The sky above was flat and gray. Shapes stood along the bank, some human, some not, all watching as if they had been waiting before I was born. At the bridge entrance sat the bridgekeeper. He was a thin figure wrapped in black cloth with one eye showing through a slit. His fingers were bone white. His staff blocked the way. Living toll, he said. I held up the courier window. Delivery route. Client Freya. Drop off hell. Paid. The bridgekeeper leaned closer. He did not look at my phone. He smelled me. Piper went still beside me. The bridgekeeper's one eye widened. Not living, he said. Cold moved under my wolf fur coat. I am standing here complaining, I said. That usually proves life. The bridgekeeper sniffed again. Underworld Road, Hydra Cave, rain on broken glass, wheel scream, blood in a delivery bag. You crossed death before Pluto knew your name. The world tilted. For one blink, Helheim vanished. Rain hit my face. A headlight spread across wet pavement. My hand clutched a delivery bag so hard the paper tore. Something heavy slammed into my side. My phone spun under a tire. A route timer blinked red through cracked glass. Then I was back on the bridge, breathing too fast. Piper's hand closed around my elbow. Mason? I pulled away because fear hates witnesses. Bad weather memory, I said. The bridgekeeper did not smile. Dead once. Unfinished still. Add it to my account notes. I have a delivery. He lowered his staff. The bridge accepted us one step at a time. That was the only way to describe it. The ice did not simply hold our weight, it judged it. Each footstep lit a pale circle under my boot, then faded behind us. The river below stayed silent, but faces moved under the surface, following the wolf fur coat like hungry dogs behind a butcher shop. Halfway across, a hand rose from the ice and grabbed my ankle. The fingers were clear as frozen glass. They bit through my pants, searching for skin. The wolf fur coat flared white around the hem, and the hand cracked apart before it reached bone. The courier window blinked. Spirit bite resisted. Wolf fur coat durability, 82%. Great, I said. My coat has a health bar. Piper's lips had gone blue. She tried to answer and only got one word out. Move. More hands pressed under the bridge, not breaking through yet, waiting for me to panic, stumble, or ask a question that would make the bridgekeeper smile. I did none of those. I walked faster and pretended every dead thing under the ice was just another customer trying to make me late. Piper did not let go of my sleeve this time. Hell's Hall sat beyond the bridge, half palace and half grave. The walls were bone white on one side and black stone on the other. Hell waited at the far table, her face split between living beauty and corpse-pale stillness. She did not rise when we entered. Freya's warning, I said, holding out the sealed letter. A servant reached for it. Hell raised one finger. The servant stopped. The courier gives it, Hell said. I walked the last few steps myself. The letter left my hand and opened in the air. Black runes burned across white paper. Hell read without changing expression. Piper read over my shoulder, then went pale. 7, she whispered. Hell's eyes lifted to mine. 7 blue flame rifts, 7 old prisons. The first has begun to hunt tribute. The gods can warn but not name the hand beneath them. Divine law eats the name before it reaches mortal air. The torches along the wall flickered blue. For 1 second, a word tried to form inside the fire. It broke into static. My teeth hurt. Hell closed the letter. Your roots are no longer accidents, courier. They are cracks. People are using because gods cannot step where you step. I wanted to ask why me. The bridgekeeper's words sat in my throat like ice. Dead once, unfinished still. I did not ask. Questions that big cost more than answers were ready to pay. Message delivered, I said. Please confirm before the atmosphere gets worse. Hell touched the courier window. Warning delivered. Helheim survival condition met. Then the route pulled us back to Grey Harbor before I could decide if relief was insulting. Freya waited in the cargo terminal, arms folded. She took one look at my face and said, Hell read it. Good. Then she turned to leave. No signature, no payment, just a goddess using the exit like money was optional. Absolutely not. I stepped in front of her. Freya's eyes narrowed. Move. Pay. This warning concerns worlds. My rent also concerns a world. Mine, Piper whispered. Mason, choose a less suicidal tone. I raised both hands and started marching in place like a cheap protest outside a bad landlord's office. Money or revolt, I said. Freya stared. I marched harder. The wolf fur coat swayed around me. 2 half-awake guards watched from the floor. Money or revolt? Money or revolt? Piper turned away, shoulders shaking. Freya's face went from divine outrage to pure disbelief. Are you chanting at me? I crossed a death bridge, got smelled by a skeleton, delivered your end-of-world letter, and bought a coat that cost more than my old annual income. Money or revolt? The cargo terminal had gone silent except for my boots. Freya closed her eyes. When she opened them, a gold light struck my phone. Route complete. Base reward, 500,000 points. Helheim survival bonus, 100,000 points. Bridgekeeper anomaly bonus, 50,000 points. Freya irritation bonus, 25,000 points. Total, 675,000 points. My total point balance crossed 1 million. For half a second, the number was so large, my brain treated it like mythology too. 1 million points, $10 million if I was dumb enough to cash all of it and brave enough to survive without shop money. I stopped marching. Freya pointed at me. Do not ever do that in Valhalla. Pay faster in Valhalla. She vanished in a burst of feathers and anger. Piper finally laughed so hard she had to sit on the combat bike. I tried to laugh with her, but the bridgekeeper's words kept sliding under the sound. Rain on broken glass. Wheel scream. Blood in a delivery bag. The mercury token burned in my pocket at the same time. I had 2 mysteries now, both with teeth. We made it back to Lakeview Tower just after midnight. I wanted a shower, silence, and at least 1 hour where nobody smelled my soul. The private elevator opened on the penthouse floor. Mara Quinn stood outside my door with a cake box. She had one arm in a sling, a bruise under her left eye, and the calm smile of a woman who knew the cake was bait. Neighbor gift, Mara said. I looked at the cake, then at her sling. Then at Piper, who had already leaned forward to inspect frosting. Sunspire rents the unit across the hall now? I asked. Recovery housing? Mara said. And Grant wanted someone nearby who could knock before disaster. Disaster brought cake? Mara held up the box. Cake brought an offer. $8 billion, split between scouting retainer and success fee. Red Drake. Lizard King? A gate that does not make sense. Grant wants the divine courier before Iron Serpent finds it first. Piper stopped reaching for the cake. My courier window pinged in my pocket. The mercury token burned colder. I looked at Mara's cake and said, that frosting better be expensive. Mara Quinn's cake was a trap with frosting. She set it on my penthouse counter like a peace offering, but the contract card under the box glowed brighter than the candles. Piper saw the frosting first. I saw the number first. Sunspire emergency scouting offer. Retainer, $4 billion. Success fee, $4 billion. Target, Red Drake and Lizard King activity inside unstable gate. I stared at the contract until the zeros began forming a religion. Mara leaned against the counter, sling tucked close to her ribs. Grant says it is a scouting route only. You confirm what is inside, locate the Red Drake if possible, and leave. No heroics unless paid under success terms. I looked at Piper. Did you hear the part where no heroics is written down? Piper had frosting on one finger already. Written down means nothing around you. That is slander supported by evidence. Mara slid another page across the counter. No long report, just one photo from the gate perimeter. A burned street, a cracked concrete wall, a small clawed handprint in ash. The American Gate Authority thinks lizard monsters opened the gate to invade, Mara said. Grant is not sure. Iron Serpent has been asking about the same site. Vivian wants the first claim if the Red Drake corpse is real. There it was, $8 billion, a dragon, possible monster invasion, and Vivian Knox sniffing around the ashes like a lawsuit with teeth. The courier window pinged before I could sign. Not Sunspire Gold. A strange green gold light opened across my phone. Emergency delivery request. Client, Lizard King. Pickup, any food safe for hatchlings. Drop off, inner refuge, unstable gate. Client note translated pending guide. Please help. Red fire killed our nests. We opened door to run, not invade. Piper stopped eating frosting. Mara read the note over my shoulder. That is not a scouting ping. No, I said. That is a customer. The cake suddenly felt less funny. I accepted both contracts in the only way that made sense to a greedy idiot with a working conscience. Sunspire paid the retainer for access and risk. The Lizard King got the delivery slot because his note had the word hatchlings in it. Piper packed the cake. I stared at her. Food safe for hatchlings, she said. Frosting is universal diplomacy. If you feed baby monsters cake and start a sugar riot, I am billing your bloodline. Mara pushed off the counter. Grant wants me on comms. Do not let Iron Serpent touch the corpse if the Red Drake is real. If Iron Serpent tries to touch anything near me, I said, I will remind them their budget is embarrassing. The unstable gate waited in an abandoned industrial strip outside Gray Harbor, surrounded by burned asphalt and temporary barriers. The air around it was hot enough to shimmer. Red claw marks scored the concrete. Something on the other side roared once, and every guard took one step back while pretending it was tactical. My new hunter license got me through the outer line with one scan. I almost kissed the ugly little digital card, Piper noticed. Do not. I was not. You had the face. The Lizard King's route arrow pointed through the gate, down a cracked tunnel, and away from the official survey markers. Good. The survey markers looked like they led to paperwork. We entered on the combat bike. The gate spat us into heat, smoke, and the smell of burned leaves. At first I saw monsters. Then I saw children. Small lizard people crouched under broken stone shelves, wrapped in strips of cloth. Their scales were dull green and gray. Some had bandages over their tails. One tiny hatchling held a cracked wooden toy in both claws and stared at my combat bike like it was another dragon. The adult guards lifted spears made of bone. Piper raised both hands and spoke in a hissing language that clicked at the edges. The guards did not lower the spears, but they stopped shaking. A short lizard in a dented copper crown stepped through the smoke. He was barely taller than my chest. One side of his face was burned. He carried a spear too large for him and tried very hard not to look desperate. Piper listened to his hissed words, then translated. He says, "Courier who hears roots, we did open the human door. We opened it because red fire ate the nursery tunnels. We wanted sky, water, anywhere the Drake could not fit. Humans raised blades before we could explain." The king looked at me and held out both hands. Inside them sat 3 pieces of cake frosting Piper had already given him. I looked at Piper. She looked proud. "He likes you," she said. "He likes sugar. Do not confuse politics," the Lizard King hissed again. Piper's smile vanished as she translated. "The red drake came from the lower prison crack. It kills lizards first because their tunnels lead near the warm seam. If it reaches the human door, it will burn Gray Harbor next." That changed the contract. Not the money. The money was already obscene. The prediction. This was not humans against monsters. This was civilians hiding from a bigger monster, while humans outside called them invaders because fear is lazy. One of the hatchlings crawled out from behind a shelf and placed a small blue stone at my boot. The Lizard King bowed his head. Piper translated softer. "Payment," he says. "Not enough, but first payment." The stone was warm and useless by every market I knew. I picked it up anyway. "Tell him the divine courier accepts a deposit," I said. "But the final invoice is going to hurt someone with wings." The king's throat clicked. Piper smiled. He says good, hurt harder. A crash came from the far tunnel. Not dragon crash, human crash. A lizard guard ran in, hissing fast. Piper turned. "Treasury! Thief!" I already knew who it was. Somehow I already knew. We found Sadie Cross in a stone vault shaped like a buried egg, stuffing green coins, scale charms, and one glowing ruby into a black pouch. 3 lizard guards pointed spears at her. She had one hand raised and the other hand absolutely still inside the pouch. She looked at me and sighed. "Of course the delivery guy is here. Of course the honest thief is robbing refugees." Sadie winced. "That sounds worse when said clearly." The Lizard King pushed past the guards, fury making his burned scales darken. He hissed at Piper. Piper translated without taking her eyes off Sadie. "He says those are egg warmth stones. Hatchlings die cold without them." Sadie slowly removed her hand from the pouch. "I did not know that. Amazing," I said. "Theft gets morally harder when you ask one question first?" Sadie's eyes narrowed. "I came for anything tied to the Red Drake's prison crack. If the wrong guild gets a seed stone, more than hatchlings die." There it is, the speech budget. The guards tensed. The Lizard King gave one sharp command. A spear tip pressed against Sadie's throat. She did not flinch, but her calm went thin. Piper whispered, "They will kill her." I looked at Sadie. She had stolen from Sunspire and escaped. She had dropped the Mercury token. She had left a terminal full of sleeping guards alive. She was a thief, a problem, and probably the kind of person who knew exactly which locked doors powerful people pretended did not exist. Killing her here solved one headache and created 5 mysteries with no one to blame but me. I pulled the arachne rope from the delivery rack. Sadie watched it like a cat watching a bathtub. "No," she said. "Yes, I hate that rope. It speaks highly of you too." I turned to the Lizard King. "Tell him I will take responsibility for the thief. She gives everything back, swears one river Styx favor to me, and helps kill the Red Drake if needed. If she breaks it, the oath eats her, not your hatchlings." Piper translated. The king listened. Then he spat on the stone floor and pointed at Sadie. Piper's eyebrows lifted. "He says she may live if she swears by the Death River and leaves the cake." Sadie looked personally attacked. "The cake too?" "Refugee tax," I said. Sadie returned every stone, coin, and ruby. Piper checked the pouch twice, then the boots, then the sleeve, then behind Sadie's ear because Piper had started enjoying herself. Sadie muttered, "This is humiliating." "That is the deposit on trust," I said. The river Styx oath formed when Sadie pressed her palm against the arachne rope and repeated the words Piper gave her. "One favor," Sadie said, voice rougher than before. "One root-bound favor owed to Mason Reed. No betrayal inside the favor. No loophole that kills his guide, his client, or the civilians under his accepted delivery. By the river Styx." Black water flashed under the stone. The arachne rope tightened once around her wrist, then dissolved into a thin black band that sank under her skin. Sadie looked like she wanted to bite me. "Now free me," she said. "Be useful first. Freedom is a subscription." The red drake announced itself by blowing the roof off the refuge. Stone exploded inward. Heat punched me flat. The combat bike flipped against a wall. Piper hit the ground beside the hatchlings and dragged two under a fallen shelf before the fire reached them. Above the broken ceiling, the red drake circled once. It was not a dragon from a fancy painting. It was uglier. Longer. Armored in red-black scales, with wings like burned ship sails and a jaw wide enough to bite the refuge in half. Blue fire burned between the scales of its chest. A seed of blue flame pulsed there. The Lizard King lifted his spear and hissed a command. Every adult lizard moved between the hatchlings and the hole in the roof. That reaction counted. They were terrified, small, and still chose the front line. I put on the shadow helm. It worked for 3 seconds. Then the drake's head snapped toward me. Heat rolled from its nostrils. Shadow helm concealment compromised by thermal sense. "Of course it sees heat," I said. "Why would a fire lizard respect stealth?" The drake dove. I grabbed Piper by the back of her jacket and threw both of us behind a stone pillar as blue-red fire filled the vault. Sadie rolled the other way and came up with 2 small glass vials in her fingers. "Freezing potion," she shouted. "I was saving them. For theft, for escape." "Do you want moral context or help?" "Throw." Sadie threw 1 vial into the drake's open mouth. Ice burst across its tongue. The drake screamed, slammed into the refuge floor, and crushed 3 stone shelves under 1 claw. The racing suit flashed. "Combat boost available. Stage 1 timer, 5 minutes. I activated it. Red lines burned down my arms. The Lizard King pointed his spear at the drake's throat and hissed. Piper translated while dragging hatchlings toward the tunnel. "He says under the neck, 1 scale grows backward. Old wound. Strike there or fire returns stronger." "Reverse scale," Sadie said. "Classic. Horrible to reach." The drake's frozen tongue cracked free. It turned toward the evacuation tunnel. "No!" The combat bike roared back to life when I kicked it. 1 fork was bent. The delivery rack sparked. I did not care. I drove straight at the drake's face. It snapped down. The bike slid under its jaw by inches. I saw the reverse scale for half a second, tucked under the throat, darker than the rest and pointing the wrong way. I punched it. The racing suit turned the hit into a boom. The scale cracked. The drake did not die. It got angry enough to make the first version look polite. Blue fire erupted from the chest seed. The whole refuge shook. The Lizard King went flying into a wall. Piper screamed my name, not from fear this time, but warning. The timer showed 3 minutes, 12 seconds. The Courier Window opened the point shop without asking. Recommended weapon, Graham Blade. Dragon Slaying Edge, single route attunement, severe point cost. Cost 180,000 points. I actually laughed, not because it was funny. Because the universe had waited until I had 1 million points to start pricing survival like luxury real estate. Sadie shouted, "If you have something, use it! I am arguing with my budget!" Piper stood in the evacuation tunnel holding up the Lizard King with 1 arm while hatchlings crowded behind her. Her hair was singed. Her face was streaked with ash. She looked at me and shook her head once. "Not, no, do it." That was the problem with partners. They made expensive decisions feel morally supervised. I bought the Graham Blade. A sword dropped into my hand, heavy and cold, with an edge that sang through the smoke. It did not feel like Mars' sword. Mars' sword wanted war. Graham Blade wanted 1 clean argument with 1 specific monster. The drake lunged. Sadie threw her last freezing potion at its left wing. Ice climbed the torn membrane and dragged it off balance. The Lizard King, burned and shaking, stabbed his oversized spear into the drake's foot. Piper shouted, "Now! Under and up!" "Mason, the scale faces you when it breathes in." The drake inhaled. The reverse scale opened. I drove the combat bike straight beneath the throat, stood on the seat, and jumped. The racing suit timer hit 41 seconds. The Graham Blade struck the reverse scale. For half a breath, nothing happened. Then the blade slid in. Blue fire blasted out around my arms. My gloves smoked. My shoulders felt like they were being pulled off. The drake reared, dragging me upward with the sword lodged in its throat. I screamed, not heroically, and kicked the cracked scale with both boots. The scale tore free. Graham blade cut through. The red drake's head separated from its body and crashed into the vault floor hard enough to bury its teeth in stone. The blue flame in its chest burst once, then shrank into a hard seed of light no bigger than my fist. The body fell. I fell with it. Piper caught my jacket with both hands and failed to stop the landing, but she made it uglier instead of fatal. We rolled across the ash together and slammed into the combat bike. The racing suit timer hit 0. Everything hurt. Sadie stood over us, breathing hard, one dagger in her hand. The Lizard King limped to the drake's severed head. He looked at it for a long time. Then he kicked its eye. Every lizard in the refuge cheered. Not a noble cheer. A raw, cracked, ugly sound from people who had been waiting to die and suddenly had to figure out living. The hatchling with the wooden toy ran to the king and hugged his burned leg. The king dropped his spear and held the child with both hands. Piper translated through a throat that sounded tight. "He says, Redfire is dead. The nests can breathe." I pushed myself up on one elbow. "Tell him Billing is also breathing." Piper gave me a look. "What? I bought a dragon sword." The courier window flashed. Sunspire scouting objective exceeded. Red Drake confirmed and killed. Civilian monster refuge preserved. Route complete. Lizard King emergency delivery. Sunspire retainer released. Success fee pending direct confirmation. Lizard King reward pending. Grant's voice burst through my phone, distorted by gate static. "Mason, what did you mean killed?" I turned the phone toward the severed head. Grant went silent. Mara's voice came faintly behind him. "That is a head?" "Yes," I said. "Dragon scouting is very clear when the head is separate." Grant exhaled. "The success fee releases, and the corpse rights," the Lizard King hissed sharply. Piper translated. "The body is theirs to burn except what pays the courier and repairs the nests. They hate the head. They want it gone." "Corpse share to refugees and courier," I said. "No trophy claim for Sunspire, no Iron Serpent." Grant did not argue. That was why he stayed a client. "Done," he said. "And Mason, get out before Iron Serpent finds the gate." Too late. A shot cracked from the refuge entrance. An Iron Serpent scout I had not seen stumbled back as Sadie's thrown dagger pinned his sleeve to the wall. He had a signal flare in one hand and fear all over his face. Sadie smiled at him. "Wrong cave." I looked at Vivian's emblem on his collar. He looked at the dead drake. Then at me. Then he dropped the flare. The lizard guards dragged him away, hissing. That was enough procedure for me. The visible consequence was better. Iron Serpent had come for a trophy and found a severed dragon, armed lizards, and me still holding the bill. The Lizard King approached with 2 guards carrying a plain brown sack. I tried not to look disappointed. A sack was not exactly dragon-slaying treasure theater. The king held it out with both hands and hissed slowly. Piper translated. "He says this bag held the first egg of his line, the last seed stones during the fire, and now whatever the saving courier needs. It is bigger inside than fear, smaller outside than greed, and may it shame your enemies when they see you carry what they cannot." The courier window labeled it. Infinite bag acquired. The sack opened. Inside was not cloth. It was space. Deep, dark, endless space folded under my hand. I dropped the blue deposit stone in. It fell for 3 seconds, then landed softly somewhere that should not fit inside a bag. I stared. "Okay," I said. "This is better than it looks." Piper snatched it from me and stuck her entire arm inside up to the shoulder. "Mason, do not lose an arm in my new bag." She pulled out the cake box from the penthouse, still intact and somehow not crushed, even though I had never put it in there. The lizard hatchlings gasped. Piper looked at the bag like she had found religion and storage. Sadie leaned close. "That is worth more than the dragon." The arachne rope mark under her skin darkened. I looked at her. "Remember your oath before your thief fingers get inspired." She lifted both hands. "I am admiring respectfully, painfully." The Lizard King bowed. The guards bowed. Then the gate behind the refuge began to dissolve. At first I thought the Red Drake's death had damaged it. Then the Lizard King looked up and made a sound too soft to be fear. The human doorway, the unstable gate that had caused half of Grey Harbor to reach for weapons, peeled apart in threads of green light. Not collapsing, not exploding, closing. Piper listened to the lizard voices around us, then said, "They opened it to run. They do not need to run now." The last green thread vanished. No invasion, no extermination, no report needed to tell anyone what had happened. The monsters stayed in their world because someone killed the thing chasing them. The hatchling with the toy waved at me as the gate closed. I waved back before I could make it a joke. The route pulled us into Grey Harbor a heartbeat before the doorway sealed completely. We landed in the abandoned industrial strip with ash in our hair, the infinite bag in my hand, Sadie still bound by oath, and the combat bike smoking like it wanted hazard pay too. Outside the barriers, guards stared at the empty gate frame. Mara saw the bag, the blood, the missing gate, and Sadie Cross standing beside us. She pointed at Sadie. Is she arrested? Subscribed, I said. Sadie rolled her eyes. Do not call me that. My phone flashed with Sunspire payment confirmations, so large they should have come with medical supervision. Retainer, success fee, corp share, hazard bonuses, lizard route completion. My point balance and bank options stacked until I had to close the screen before I started making noises in public. Piper leaned against the combat bike and looked back at the place where the gate had been. They were not invading, she said. No, I said. They were fleeing. That was one quiet line. The story did not let us keep it. The courier window opened with Vulcan's mark burning red around the edges. His face appeared through the forge smoke, but the smoke behind him was blue. Mason, Vulcan said. Get to Furnace House, now! I just killed a red drake, saved lizard civilians, gained a thief subscription, and bought a sword that financially stabbed me. Starwood congratulations. Vulcan did not laugh. The blue smoke behind him formed a seed shape, then broke into static. Rift seeds have crossed into human worlds, he said. Gods cannot name the source and cannot strike it directly. The law cuts the word out of our mouths. A hiss of static swallowed whatever he tried to say next. The mercury token burned cold in my pocket. The infinite bag went heavy in my hand. Vulcan's voice came back rougher. Your deliveries are not just routes anymore. They are the loophole. The courier window flashed a new priority color I had never seen. Not gold, blue. And somewhere under Gray Harbor, something answered it like a door unlocking from the wrong side. The blue priority route did not open like a job. It opened like a wound under my phone screen. Vulcan's face burned through the courier window, all forge smoke and bad news, while the infinite bag hung from my shoulder and the combat bike leaked dragon ash onto the abandoned asphalt outside Gray Harbor. Get to Furnace House, Vulcan said. Behind him, blue smoke curled into the shape of an eye, then broke apart with a burst of static. Piper went still beside me. Sadie Cross, still wearing the black mark of my River Styx Faber under her skin, took one careful step away from the phone like it might bite. I said, if this is another client underselling a death errand, start with the price so I can hate it accurately. Vulcan did not laugh. That made the route worse before it even began. The courier window pulled me and Piper straight into Furnace House. Sadie did not come with us. The oath mark on her wrist flashed once, and she vanished into a side route before I could ask where. That was fine. I was not ready to trust her unattended around my new infinite bag anyway. Furnace House was hotter than usual, but the heat was losing. Blue frost crawled over Vulcan's forge chains. The giant furnace coughed smoke that turned to static halfway up the chimney. On the floor, my red drake seed sat inside a bronze clamp, pulsing like a heart that hated rooms. Vulcan held a hammer over it. Every time he tried to speak a name, the hammer sparked and his voice shredded. The source is? Static. The sound stabbed behind my teeth. Piper covered both ears. Divine law. It is cutting the forbidden name out of the air. Great, I said. The apocalypse has a sensor. Vulcan slammed his hammer down beside the blue seed, not on it. The floor jumped. 7 rift seeds, 7 old prisons. Hell warned you, I can say that much. I cannot name the hand underneath them, and I cannot strike across the line. None of us can. The courier window flashed blue. Priority route forming, client conflict, divine law restriction, mortal loophole available. I hated the word loophole. It was how rich people said trap after they hired poor people to step on it. So you called me because I am mortal enough to get killed legally, I said. I called you because blue-eyed slime seeds have appeared near Cloudline Hall's lower ravine, Vulcan said. They are scouting old prison paths. Hercules is already chasing them. A shadow covered the forge door. A man stepped inside carrying a club longer than my scooter. Hercules did not enter a room. He occupied it and made the room apologize. He wore lion hide over one shoulder, bronze at his wrists, and a smile that said every problem in his life had once been solved by hitting it until it respected history. He looked at me, then at Piper, then at my smoking combat bike. This is the courier? Hercules asked. I lifted one hand. This is the courier who charges more when clients open with disappointment. Hercules grinned. Good. I need someone stubborn and throwable, Piper said. Throwable? I said. No, I heard that word. I am declining the adjective. The courier window ignored me. Emergency trace route available. Client, Hercules. Objective, trace blue-eyed slime seed path through lower ravine. Secondary objective, recover first prison clue. Base reward, 70,000 points. Prison clue bonus available. The reward line looked good. The word throwable looked bad. Vulcan stepped toward the combat bike and shoved the Hydra scale against its cracked front fork. The scale had come from Hydra's hand, proof she had chosen not to eat me. Now it pulsed as if the bike had a heartbeat to match. The red drake nearly cooked your bike, Vulcan said. This will keep it alive if Hercules does something stupid. Hercules laughed. If? The point shop opened by itself. Hydra Scale Bike Forge Fusion available. Requires Hydra Scale. Cost 45,000 points. I stared at Vulcan. You brought me here to get censored by divine law and upsold by a forge. I brought you here so you do not splatter at the bottom of a ravine, Vulcan said. That sounds like a service that should be free. Dying is free. Surviving is expensive. I paid. Vulcan struck the scale with his hammer. Black-green armor crawled over the combat bike's frame. The cracked fork straightened, the tires darkened until they looked wet, then grew scale ridges that flexed like claws. The delivery rack repaired itself around the infinite bag, the cedar baton, and the scorched socket where the gram blade had rested. The courier window labeled the upgrade. Hydra Scale Bike acquired. Adaptive armor, ravine grip, poison and fire resistance improved, personality still hostile. The bike growled at me. It did not need personality, I said. Piper ran one hand over the new scale plating. Hydra agreed to give you that scale. Do not waste it showing off. I never show off. I suffer publicly. There is a difference. Hercules clapped one hand on my shoulder hard enough to make my soul blink. Good mouth. Bad bones. Follow me. The route opened before I could argue. Cloudline Hall's lower ravine was nothing like the bright bridge where Iris had first handed me ambrosia. This place was the underside of heaven. Pale stone cliffs dropped into gold fog. Old columns stuck out of the ravine walls like broken teeth. Blue slime clung to the ruins in little breathing knots, each one marked with one pale eye that opened when we got close. Hercules hit the first slime seed with his club. It exploded across the path. Blue sparks hissed on the stones and crawled away from him instead of dying. Piper pointed. They are not monsters. They are markers. They are trying to lead something. Lead it where? I asked. A blue trail lit under the slime. It ran straight over the ravine edge. Hercules looked at the trail. Then he looked at my newly upgraded bike. I backed up. No, he smiled. Hercules, Piper warned. The courier needs a root seam, not a fall. The seam is below, Hercules said. Atlas knows where old prison paths touch the sky. He hates me. He may talk to someone else. You could have said that at Furnace House. You would have refused. Correct. That is why saying it mattered. Hercules grabbed the back of the Hydra scale bike with one hand. I grabbed the handlebars. Piper grabbed my jacket. Hercules said, trace the seed. Get the clue. Do not die before I pay you. Then he threw us off the ravine. For 3 seconds, I learned every curse word in every language my fear could invent. The Hydra scale bike hit the ravine wall sideways. The scale tires bit into stone. We did not fall. We drove down. Piper screamed into my shoulder. I screamed for brand consistency. Blue slime eyes opened all along the cliff, watching us skid down the impossible wall. The bike's armor flexed under each impact, taking hits that would have turned the old combat bike into rich confetti. A blue seed burst under the front tire and sprayed light across the ravine. It did not die. It stretched into a blue thread and snapped around the delivery rack. The infinite bag jerked backward, and the whole bike shuddered as if the ravine had hooked us by the spine. Piper shouted, "It is marking the bag! The bag is new! The bag holds roots, tools, and whatever impossible nonsense you shove in it. If the seed marks it, the prison path may follow everything inside." That was not exposition. That was my storage becoming a doorway for whatever blue thing wanted Gray Harbor. I reached back with one hand. The blue thread burned through my glove and wrapped around my wrist. The mercury token in my pocket turned cold enough to hurt, but it gave me no answer, no speech, no miracle, just pain and another question. The bike growled under me. The Hydra scale plating along the rack flexed like a living jaw and bit the blue thread. Poison green light ran through the scale ridges. The thread hissed, loosened, then wrapped tighter around my wrist instead. Piper grabbed the infinite bag with both hands. "Mason, scrape it off!" I looked at the cliff racing past us. Broken columns jutted from the wall like divine teeth. One was thick enough to kill us and ugly enough to work. "Hold the bag," I said. "I am holding the bag. Hold it richer." I slammed the bike sideways into the column. Stone exploded. My shoulder hit the armor frame. Piper's forehead cracked against the back of my helmet. The blue thread tore free of my wrist with a wet snap and whipped into the fog, still carrying a strip of my glove. The courier window flashed. Blue seed mark resisted. Hydra scale bike integrity, 72%. Infinite bag contamination, 0%. I almost kissed the bike. Then it bucked and reminded me affection was not mutual. The root arrow snapped hard left into a cave behind a curtain of gold fog. I leaned. The bike climbed sideways, kicked off another broken column, and crashed through the fog. We landed on a flat stone shelf under a sky that was not the same sky. A giant held it up. Atlas knelt in the center of the shelf, one knee buried in the stone, both hands braced against a black arch of stars overhead. Chains of old gold wrapped his wrists, shoulders, and throat. His beard hung like storm cloud. His eyes opened slowly and settled on Hercules's blue trail burning under my front tire. "No," Atlas said. The word shook dust off the shelf. I lifted one hand. "Normal clients say hello. Terrible clients say no before I invoice." Atlas's eyes moved to Piper. A nymph, a mortal, a delivery beast wearing Hydra's kindness. Hercules has become lazy. Hercules has become a lawsuit, I said. He threw me. Atlas smiled without warmth. "Good. Then you know what kind of friend he is. Leave." Piper stepped beside me and spoke carefully. "Atlas, blue rift seeds are tracing old prison paths. We need the first prison clue." Atlas looked past her, toward the blue slime trail. For one breath, anger became attention. Then his face closed. "Hercules wants it," Atlas said. "Therefore Hercules does not get it." The courier window flashed. "Clue source located. Cooperation required." Required. My least favorite word after unpaid. "I am not Hercules," I said. "I am an independent contractor who was thrown by Hercules and intends to bill him for emotional altitude." Atlas leaned closer. The whole sky leaned with him. "You smell of Pluto's road, Hydra's mercy, Helheim's bridge, and mortal panic, but you still carry Hercules's path." Piper went stiff at the smell list. I ignored the death part again, because ignoring impossible clues had become my retirement plan. "Fine," I said. "Then make a deal with me, not him. You give the clue. I pay the price. River Styx oath." Piper whispered, "Mason." Atlas laughed. The sound rolled through the shelf and knocked loose stones into the fog. "You would bind a titan with oath law. I would bind a parking meter if it stood between me and a route bonus." Atlas studied me. The blue slime trail crawled closer to his chain and left a smoking mark. That changed him. Not fear, recognition. He said, "If I swear, the price must come first." "No," I said. "If you swear the price and clue locked together, you ask for something. If I give it, you answer fully. No riddles that only make sense after everyone dies." Atlas's fingers tightened under the sky. "You bargain like a starving merchant. I started this story with $42. Compliment accepted." A black line of water shimmered between us. River Styx oath light. Atlas spoke first. "If the courier brings the golden apple of the western branch, I give the first prison clue he seeks, full and uncut." Piper's face dropped. "The western branch is guarded," she said. "Even gods do not take those apples casually." Atlas smiled. "That is why Hercules cannot have his answer." The courier window opened the point shop with one bright, insulting chime. At the top sat an item card I had never hated more. Golden apple. Mythic substitute. Legally recognized under oath phrasing. Cost, 80,000 points. I stared at it. Piper stared at it. Atlas could not see my screen, which made the moment delicious. "Problem?" Atlas asked. "Yes," I said. "Apples are usually cheaper." I bought it. A perfect golden apple dropped into my hand. Warm, heavy, and smelling like sunlight had gotten expensive. Atlas's smile disappeared. That reaction counted because the whole oath flipped in my palm. I held the apple behind my back. "Clue first." Atlas's voice deepened. "Price first. Oath says if I bring it, you give the clue. I brought it. You get it when I confirm the clue is full and uncut." I learned delivery terms from bad customers and worse gods. For a second, I thought Atlas would break the shelf just to kill me. The River Styx line hissed black water between us. He could not. Atlas opened his mouth and the first word came out as static. Blue fire flashed over his chains. He winced, then he forced the rest through. 7 ancient prisons, Atlas said. 7 blue flames. Each flame hunts what sealed it. The first door is horn, hunger, and tribute. A king was taken into the Cretan labyrinth. Neptune's white bull tribute is missing. Without it, the Minotaur's seal feeds instead of sleeps. The courier window burned the words into the route log. First prison clue acquired. Cretan labyrinth. King Minos. White bull tribute. Minotaur seal failure. Atlas kept speaking because the oath forced full measure. If tribute is not returned before the blue flame opens, the first prison will choose a human city as its new maze mouth. The path is already tasting Grey Harbor. Piper's hand closed around my sleeve. There it was. Not vague apocalypse, not council smoke. My city, my wet streets, my tower, my stupid private elevator, my old quick cart routes, Evelyn's lobby, Dennis's office, Jason's warehouse, Mara's recovery unit, all of it. The first prison was tasting home like a customer testing soup before sending it back. I gave Atlas the apple. His massive fingers closed around it like he wanted to crush the oath with the fruit. Instead, he laughed once, bitter and impressed. Hercules chose an irritating messenger. Vulcan assigned the irritating part. Hercules just supplied gravity. The Hydra scale bike growled as the blue slime trail suddenly flared behind us. The seeds we had followed were not dead. They gathered at the edge of the shelf, eyes opening all at once. Blue fire crawled toward Atlas's chains. Atlas roared and shifted the sky with one shoulder. "Leave," he said. "If the seeds mark me, the old prisons learn the sky path." Piper jumped onto the bike. "Mason, now!" I mounted the Hydra scale bike and pointed it toward the cliff wall. Atlas watched the blue seeds crawl closer. I looked back at him. "For the record, Hercules owes both of us." Atlas bared his teeth. "Break his nose for me." Billable request accepted. The bike shot through the fog, up the ravine wall, and back toward Cloudline Hall's lower path. The scale tires clawed into stone. Blue slime seeds burst under us. The upgraded armor hissed but held. Piper read the trail marks as we climbed, shouting left, right, up, while the ravine tried to swallow every bad decision Hercules had outsourced. We burst over the ledge at full speed. Hercules stood there with his club over one shoulder, grinning. "You lived!" The Hydra scale bike hit him in the face. Not hard enough to kill a hero, hard enough to fold him backward into a column and make his lion hide flip over his head. Piper grabbed my waist and yelled, "Mason!" I skidded to a stop, looked at Hercules sprawled under the broken column, and lifted both hands. "Accident," I said. Hercules sat up with stone dust in his hair. His nose was bleeding. For one dangerous second, he looked furious. Then he laughed so hard the ravine answered. "Atlas told you to do that. Atlas requested it. I fulfilled with enthusiasm." Hercules wiped blood off his upper lip and stood. "What did he say?" I opened the route log and let the courier window read the clue aloud. When it reached Gray Harbor, Hercules stopped smiling. That reaction mattered because this was not his old legend anymore. The prison was no longer safely under myth and distance. It had found a door near my rent receipts. Hercules placed his thumb on the courier window. Route complete. Base reward, 70,000 points. Ravine survival bonus, 15,000 points. Atlas oath bonus, 25,000 points. First prison clue bonus, 40,000 points. Hero facial impact, surcharge, 5,000 points. Total, 155,000 points. That was $1,550,000 if I cashed it, and for once I did not. The point shop had just charged me 80,000 points for fruit and 45,000 to make my bike less suicidal. The numbers had stopped feeling like wealth and started feeling like bullets I had to count while monsters ran at my door. I looked at the surcharge. "Worth more," I said. Hercules rubbed his nose. "Do not get greedy." Piper and I both stared at him. He sighed. "Fine, it was worth more." A new route card unfolded before the payment glow faded. This one was not from Hercules. A bronze thread drew itself across the blue screen, sketching a maze map line by line. A man's voice spoke through the courier window, older than panic and sharper than regret. "Mason read. I am Theseus. King Minos has been dragged into the Cretan labyrinth. Neptune's tribute is missing. The Minotaur is no longer sealed. If the blue flame opens before midnight, your Gray Harbor becomes the next maze. Follow my map, or bury your city." The map burned into my phone. Emergency map route accepted. Destination, Neptune's temple threshold, Cretan coast. Delivery priority, prevent first rift opening. Piper looked at me. I looked at the Hydra scale bike, the infinite bag, the useless cedar batten, the mercury token cold in my pocket, and the blue route pointing out of the sky. "Fine," I said. "But if an ancient maze charges entrance fees, I am making Theseus pay parking." The route did not waste time on ships. One blink after Theseus's map burned across my phone, the Cretan coast slammed into view under a sky the color of smoke. The Hydra scale bike landed on cracked marble. Piper hit my back with both hands. My front tire rolled through ash where a market street used to be. The city was already ruined. Stone houses had been split open. White walls were smeared with black horn marks. Bronze doors hung off hinges. Somewhere ahead, someone was crying inside a temple, trying to keep the sound small enough that monsters would not hear it. A man in battered armor stood on the broken road with a bronze map thread wrapped around one fist. Theseus looked older than statues made him seem, and angrier than heroes were supposed to look. He pointed to the hill above the city. "Neptune's temple. Survivors are inside. The Minotaur took King Minos into the labyrinth before dawn." I looked up. The Cretan labyrinth rose behind the city like a stone sickness, walls turning over walls, stairs leading nowhere, blue fire breathing through cracks in the old blocks. The whole maze pulsed once, and every ruined street answered with a low horn sound. Piper whispered, "It is waking." "Great," I said. "I love clients who start with property damage." Theseus stared at my courier jacket. "You joke while a king is hostage?" "I joke because if I stop, I will count how many people are under that ash. Then I get slow." That was more honest than I meant to be, so I ruined it quickly. "Also, I charge by urgency." Theseus's mouth tightened. Then a wall 2 streets over exploded. Something shaped like a man and bull charged through the smoke, but it was not the Minotaur itself. It was an echo made of blue fire and old rage, horned, huge, and half-transparent. Behind it came two more, snorting steam through burning nostrils. Theseus lifted his sword. Echoes. The labyrinth sends copies before the real beast moves. Get the survivors out. I hold them. How generous, I said. You assigned me evacuation because I brought a bag. You brought a bag that holds impossible weight. That is private client information. The first echo slammed into Theseus. He met it head-on and skidded backwards 6 feet, boots carving lines into ash. His sword bit blue fire. The echo screamed, and the sound made the broken windows shake. No more argument. I drove for Neptune's temple. The street tried to stop us before the temple did. A cracked fountain lay across the road, spilling seawater that steamed where blue ash touched it. 2 survivors were trapped behind it, one older man with a bloody forehead and one girl clutching a wooden bull toy to her chest. An echo stalked the far end of the street, sniffing at their fear like it could taste names. The route arrow pointed past them. The temple doors were ahead. The survivors were not my cargo, not yet, and the Minotaur's blue fire was already crawling along the walls behind us. Piper's hand tightened on my shoulder. I hated that she did not even have to say please anymore. I swung the Hydra scale bike sideways and dropped between the echo and the fountain. The echo lowered its horns. I opened the infinite bag and shoved it at the older man. Put the girl on the bike, I said. Throw anything useful in the sack. Not the fountain, not your pride. Move. The man grabbed 3 water skins and a bundle of linen. The girl climbed behind Piper with both hands locked around the wooden bull. The echo charged. Theseus hit it from the side before it reached us. His sword cut through blue flame, and the echo broke apart into burning pieces that immediately started crawling back together. They rebuild from fear, Theseus shouted. Then stop scaring people with dramatic phrasing, I shouted back. The girl made one tiny laugh against Piper's back. It was the smallest sound in the ruined city, and it was still worth the detour. We reached the temple steps with the echo reforming behind us, and Theseus limping after it. I dropped the girl and the older man inside the threshold. The toy bull in her hands warmed as it crossed the sea-green line, and the trident mark over the doors flared once. Piper saw it. That toy was carved from tribute wood. The temple still recognizes pieces of the old seal. The girl held it tighter. I pointed at the toy. Keep that. If any adult asks for it without paying your full evacuation rate, bite them. The older man gave me a look like he could not decide whether to thank me or report me to a priest. That was normal. The temple stood at the edge of the harbor, half cracked, half glowing. Waves slapped the broken steps below it. A bronze trident mark burned above the main doors. The threshold line across the entrance glowed sea green, and nothing blue crossed it. Outside that line, horn gouges covered the stone. Inside, survivors packed the hall shoulder to shoulder. Children, old men, injured guards, people clutching bowls of water, wrapped bundles, broken icons, and each other. Nobody cheered when we entered. They looked at the delivery jacket, the nymph guide, the scaled bike, and the sack on my shoulder with the hard eyes of people who had already watched strong men fail. A temple guard raised a spear. No more heroes. Heroes brought the maze awake. Theseus crashed into the temple steps behind us, rolled, and came up bleeding from one cheek while 3 echoes battered the threshold line. The echoes could not cross, but the line dimmed with every hit. I pointed at Theseus. That one is a hero. I am labor, different insurance. Piper stepped forward and spoke to the guard, slow and clear. Mason Reed is the divine courier. The route brought him because Neptune's threshold still recognizes delivery law. Let us move supplies and children first, or the next echo breaks the line and your argument dies with everyone. The guard stared at her. A blue horn punched the threshold from outside. A crack ran across the trident mark. The guard lowered the spear. That reaction mattered because it turned fear into movement. He pointed toward the cracked courtyard behind the altar. King Minos tried to carry Neptune's white bull tribute to the pedestal when the blue fire opened. The Minotaur came through the wall, took the king, and the tribute vanished in the crush. Then, men with black serpent marks came while we were pulling bodies from the aisle. They said they were securing fragments. They took crates instead of children. The line landed ugly because it did not need proof. The proof was all around us. Survivors with ash in their hair, a threshold breaking, a missing tribute, iron serpent arriving at a disaster with empty crates and full greed. I looked at Piper. If the tribute is missing, can the maze be sealed? Piper looked past me toward the broken pedestal. Not cleanly, it will keep trying to replace the tribute with something alive. A blue horn hit the threshold again. The whole doorway shuddered. A child started crying. I clapped my hands once loud enough to make adults jump. Children first. Small bundles, medicine, water, no furniture. If anyone tries to pack a decorative vase, I throw the vase at the maze. A woman holding 2 toddlers asked, "Where?" I opened the infinite bag. Dark folded space yawned inside the sack. The temple went quiet. Then I threw in 3 crates of water, a basket of bandages, stack of blankets, and 1 bronze offering bowl that a priest kept trying to keep. The bag did not get heavier. The priest saw that and tried to push in a whole chest of coins. I slapped the lid shut on his fingers. "Children and medicine," I said. "Neptune can file a reimbursement request." Piper started organizing the evacuation faster than any official I had ever met. She pointed with one hand, translated old temple marks with the other, and yelled at a line of survivors until even the crying children moved in order. "Harbor steps," she said. "The temple threshold extends to the old tide line. The Minotaur avoids it because Neptune's seal still bites." "How long?" I asked. The trident mark cracked again. Piper looked up. "Not long enough for your tone." "Then my tone can jog." We moved. I loaded the infinite bag until the opening smoked at the seams. Water, food, bandages. Children too small to walk did not go inside, because I was not putting frightened people into dark pocket space unless the alternative was teeth. Adults carried them. I used the bag for weight that would have slowed them down. The first group made it down the harbor steps to the boats. The boats were small, ugly, and blessed by Neptune's threshold glow. Survivors climbed in while blue echoes paced the pier outside the line, unable to cross, furious enough to crack the stones with their hooves. Theseus stood between the echoes and the second group. He cut one copy in half. It burst into blue sparks, then reformed farther back with a scream. "They do not stay dead," he shouted. "Neither do bad customers," I shouted back. "Stall better?" He actually laughed, one harsh sound before another echo hit him. That bought the second group time. Then the pressure shifted. Not from the maze, from people. 3 Iron Serpent mercenaries came out of a side street carrying a black crate between them. Their armor was scorched, their emblems dirty, and their eyes went straight to the temple's cracked inner courtyard. The lead mercenary saw me and froze. I saw the emblem and smiled. He hated that smile. Piper followed my gaze. "They are not helping. Iron Serpent charges extra for humanity." The mercenaries cut across the courtyard toward a broken pedestal near the back of Neptune's temple. Blue shards glittered around it, each one burning with a small flame. A stone bullhead lay smashed beside the pedestal. The space where something white and sacred should have rested was empty. One mercenary shoved a survivor out of his way. The survivor hit the floor, clutching a bandaged arm. That was enough. I drove the Hydra scale bike straight through the temple courtyard. The lead mercenary lifted a crossbow. "Stay out of Iron Serpent business." "I tried that in a mountain gate," I said. "Your boss made it my hobby," he fired. The bolt hit the bike's Hydra plating and hissed green. The scale armor swallowed the impact. The front tire clipped his knee, not enough to kill him, enough to fold his authority in half. He dropped the crossbow and hit the floor howling. The black crate cracked open. Inside were blue flame seed fragments wrapped in cloth marked with Iron Serpent tags. No hearing, no report, no witness forms. Survivors saw it. The temple guard saw it. Theseus saw it over his shoulder while holding off echoes. Iron Serpent was looting the thing burning their city while children were still coughing ash. The second mercenary grabbed the crate. I kicked it out of his hands. Fragments spilled across the floor, rolling toward the empty pedestal. The blue flames leaned toward the missing bullhead space like they wanted to crawl home. Piper went pale. "Mason, do not let the fragments touch the pedestal. The tribute is gone. The seed will drink the empty place." I opened the infinite bag and swept the loose fragments into it with the edge of a broken shield. The bag bucked. Blue light flashed inside the dark space. For one horrible second, I thought I had just contaminated it after saving it from the ravine seed. Then the infinite bag burped smoke and snapped shut around the fragments like it was offended by their taste. The courier window flashed. Blue flame fragments contained. Temporary. Warning, containment cost increasing. Of course my bag had billing stress. The third mercenary grabbed Piper from behind and put a knife to her throat. "Drop the bag," he said. Piper's eyes found mine. She did not panic. That made me angrier. I lifted both hands slowly. The mercenary smiled. Then Piper slammed the back of her head into his nose, drove her heel into his foot, and ducked as I threw the cedar baton. The baton hit his forehead with the exact dramatic power of a camp souvenir. Bonk! He blinked. Piper stared at the baton on the floor. "Still useless," she said. The mercenary looked relieved for half a second. Then Theseus's sword hilt hit him behind the ear. He dropped. Theseus pointed at the baton. "Why carry that? A war god said I would thank him later." "Did you?" "Not yet." The lead mercenary crawled backward, clutching his knee. He looked toward the maze, then the temple, then the crate he had lost. His courage chose the smallest exit. He ran. I let him go. Not mercy, message delivery. Iron Serpent needed to know its hands were visible now. He made it 10 steps before his greed beat his survival instinct. The lead mercenary yanked a blue shard from under his armor and raced it toward the harbor where the first survivor boat was pushing off. Piper shouted. If he throws that past the threshold, the echo follows the boat. The mercenary smiled with blood on his teeth. Vivian wants proof, Courier. Your refugees can be the proof. I did not have suit boost. I did not have time to reach him. So I did the least heroic thing available and threw the black crate at his legs. The crate hit him behind the knees. He folded backward, the shard flew up, and Theseus caught it on the flat of his sword before it crossed the threshold line. Blue fire crawled over his blade. He grimaced, but held it until I opened the infinite bag under the shard and let the bag swallow the problem with another irritated smoke burp. The mercenary hit the ground. The temple guard put a spear against his throat. Now I let him live, with an audience. The temple guard helped the shubbed survivor stand. His face had changed when he looked at me. Not trust, not yet. But the spear was no longer pointed at my chest. More survivors under the Western Isle, he said. The king's guard hid them before the Minotaur took him. That line moved the next choice. We went deeper into the temple. The Western Isle had collapsed under half the roof. People were trapped behind cracked stone. The infinite bag could hold supplies, but it could not lift temple blocks by itself, and the racing suit was still angry from the red drake fight. I activated stage 1 anyway. The red lines lit under my sleeves. Timer, 3 minutes. Piper saw the timer and snapped, "Do not waste it. Tell the roof that." I shoved 1 block. The suit boosted me. The stone moved enough for 2 children to crawl out. Another block dropped. Theseus caught it with both hands and grunted under the weight. "Courier," he said through his teeth. "Hero," I said back. We lifted together. That part mattered more than either of us liked. His legend and my rented suit made 1 gap wide enough for the last survivors to crawl through. Piper pulled them out 1 by 1, counting each head aloud so nobody got lost in the smoke. The timer hit 19 seconds when the final child crawled into the temple guard's arms. The roof gave way. Theseus and I jumped clear as stone crashed down behind us, sealing the Western Isle forever. The second wave of survivors reached the boats. The third wave followed. By the time the last group crossed the harbor threshold, the temple was almost empty. The trident mark above the doors had cracked into 3 pieces. Blue echoes hammered outside like unpaid debt. The evacuation payoff landed without applause. Boats pushed off. Children were alive. Supplies were loaded. The survivors looked back at their ruined city and did not have to die inside it. 1 short breath. That was all the story gave us. Then Piper found the wall. She stood near the inner courtyard, fingers hovering over faint marks hidden behind soot. They spiraled around a small stone niche beneath a carving of a woman holding thread. "Ariadne," Piper whispered. Theseus turned so fast his armor scraped. "Where?" Piper wiped soot from the marks. "Old wall script, not temple script, labyrinth script. It says, the living guide failed, the old hero paid, and the threshold hand may carry the thread where neither side owns him." "Ariadne made a thread for me," Theseus said. His voice did not sound proud, it sounded wounded. Piper pressed the niche. A spool of pale thread rose from the stone. Ariadne's thread. It glowed softly, almost tender, until Theseus reached for it. The spool snapped away from his hand. The rejection cracked across his face harder than any echo hit. "No!" Theseus said. The thread floated past him, straight to me. I stepped back. "Absolutely not! I am not stealing a hero's famous string!" The thread ignored my professionalism and coiled around my wrist. Cold went up my arm. The mercury token in my pocket burned freezing bright. For 1 blink, rain flashed behind my eyes again. Wet pavement, a tire, my own hand dragging a delivery bag through water. Then it was gone. Piper stared at the thread around my wrist. "It chose the same thing Hydra smelled," she said. Theseus looked at me like I had robbed his past. I lifted my wrapped wrist. "For the record, I do not know what I am. I just know this thread has aggressive customer acquisition." The thread tightened once, then pointed toward the Cretan labyrinth. The temple doors blew open. The echoes outside stopped attacking. All of them turned toward the maze. A real horn sounded. Not an echo, not a warning. A body-deep sound that made every survivor boat stop rocking on the harbor. Blue fire climbed the labyrinth walls. The Minotaur stepped into the highest gate. He was larger than the echoes, black-furred, bronze-horned, with blue flame burning through the cracks in his chest. In one hand, he held a broken chain. In the other, he held King Minos by the back of his royal cloak. The king was alive, barely. The Minotaur's voice rolled over the ruined city and across the water. "Tribute! King! Courier! Midnight!" The survivors heard it. The temple guard heard it. Theseus heard it with his sword raised and his old shame showing. I heard Grey Harbor inside the next words. "Refuse," the Minotaur said, "and the first maze opens under your human city. Every street becomes Horn Road. Every door becomes mine." The courier window flashed blue so bright it lit the empty temple. Cretan labyrinth route forming. Required cargo, White Bull tribute. Required guide, Ariadne's thread. Required risk, Mason read. Piper looked at King Minos dangling from the monster's fist. Theseus looked at the thread on my wrist. I looked toward the west, even though Grey Harbor was too far away to see. Midnight, I said. Fine, but I am billing the maze for every door it makes me open. Midnight gave me less than an hour to become maze food. I stood inside the broken threshold of Neptune's temple with Ariadne's thread coiled around my wrist, the infinite bag smoking at my shoulder, the cedar baton on my belt, the Monkey King ember hair sealed in a little glass charm, and Piper watching the Cretan labyrinth breathe blue fire above the ruined city. Theseus tightened his grip on his sword. I go first. The labyrinth knows me. The thread snapped tight around my wrist and dragged me one step forward. I looked at him. The string disagrees. File a complaint with history. He hated that. He also did not argue, because the maze gates had begun opening and closing on the hillside like teeth. I pulled the mercury token from my pocket. It was cold enough to frost my glove, but still silent. No answers. No patron speech. Just the same winged mark Sadie had dropped in Glasswell Harbor. Sadie, I said to the river Styx mark in the Arachne rope coil. Favor time. Black water flashed under my boots. Sadie Cross dropped out of the dark beside the temple altar, one dagger already in her hand and irritation already on her face. I was busy, she said, stealing. Breathing. Sometimes I do that between thefts. The black oath mark under her skin crawled once and pointed toward the labyrinth. Piper stepped between Sadie and the infinite bag. One favor, no betrayal. No loophole that kills me, him, the client, or civilians. You swore it. Sadie lifted both hands. Yes, guide. I remember the humiliating poetry. Theseus looked at her. You bring a thief into the labyrinth? Iron Serpent stole the tribute, I said. I am bringing a professional to steal it back. Sadie's mouth twitched. That is almost respect. Do not get addicted. The courier window flashed blue. Cretan labyrinth route active. Required cargo, White Bull tribute. Current cargo status, stolen. Known hostile, Minotaur. Rift opening, 53 minutes, 12 seconds. A sea green light opened behind us. Grant Sutter and Mara Quinn came through with 6 Sunspire hunters, all bruised, armed, and smart enough to stop at the temple line. Grant looked at the empty boats, the survivors on the water, the captured Iron Serpent mercenary, and the blue fire above the maze. We hold the threshold, Grant said. You go. Mara's eyes moved to the thread on my wrist. Does it know where the king is? Piper answered before I could lie. It knows where Mason must stand. That is not always kinder. I hated how often her warnings became accurate. The labyrinth gate opened at the top of the ruined street. The Minotaur's voice rolled out. Courier! Bring tribute! Bring thief! Bring old hero! Bring guide! Sadie looked at me. It asked for me? Popular people suffer, I said. We entered. The first corridor moved while we walked. Not slowly, not politely. The walls slid, turned, and sealed behind us with wet stone clicks. Blue veins pulsed under the floor. The air smelled like bull blood, seawater, and old fear. Ariadne's thread pulled from my wrist to the wall, drew a glowing line, then recoiled when a false passage opened with a friendly golden light. Piper read the marks above it. False court! It loops to the stomach pit! Sadie peered inside. There are jewels on the floor. Then it definitely eats people, I said. No one leaves free jewels in honest architecture. The thread dragged us left. An iron door slammed down ahead. No handle, no lock, just a round deadbolt hole shaped like nothing useful. Theseus raised his sword. I can cut it. The thread snapped across his wrist and left a red line. He stepped back, furious. Piper studied the deadbolt mark. Ariadne's wall says, Old war gift, useless in song, useful in silence. I slowly looked down at the cedar baton. The plain stick from Mars, the sacred campground souvenir, the rare war treasure that had bonked a siren and embarrassed everyone involved. No, I said, the thread wrapped around the baton on my belt. Absolutely no. If Mars was right, I will never hear the end of it. Piper's smile turned vicious. Open the door, Mason. I slid the cedar baton into the deadbolt hole. It fit perfectly. Ariadne's thread wound around it, pulled once, and the door unlocked with a deep sea green boom. The courier window flashed. Cedar baton function revealed. Labyrinth deadbolt key. I stared at the stick. I hate when cheap clients are future right. The door opened. Behind it, Iron Serpent had set up a theft room. Crates lined the corridor, each marked with black serpent paint. Blue flame seed fragments sat in glass jars. Bronze chains dragged across the floor toward the maze heart. At the far end, Vivian Knox stood beside a white carved bull idol wrapped in black cloth. The White Bull tribute. King Minos hung from a chain behind her, alive but bleeding, his crown cracked against one temple. Vivian looked at me and smiled like this had always been her lobby. Mason Reed, she said, still mistaking courier work for ownership. I looked at the tribute, then at the king, then at the crates. Vivian Knox, I said, still mistaking theft for business development. Sadie inhaled quietly beside me. Vivian heard it, her eyes moved. Sadie Cross. I wondered which gutter Mercury's pet thief had crawled through. The Mercury token in my pocket went so cold it burned. I did not understand that line yet, but it made Sadie's face go flat. Careful, Sadie said. Vivian lifted one hand. Iron Serpent mercenaries stepped from behind the crates. Crossbows, seed jars, hook chains, too many for a clean rush. Behind them, blue fire crawled through the wall toward the tribute like the maze itself wanted to eat the stolen seal. Vivian pointed at King Minos. The tribute answers to a king. The king answers to whoever controls the chain. I control the chain. Theseus moved first. 3 mercenaries met him with hooks. He cut the first hook, blocked the second, and took the third across his shoulder. Piper shouted a wallmark warning, and I threw myself left as a blue seed jar shattered where my head had been. Seed fire splashed across the floor. The labyrinth drank it. The walls shuddered. Vivian smiled wider. That was her overreach. She thought adding stolen flame to the maze made her stronger. The thread on my wrist tightened like it wanted to rip my arm off. Piper screamed, "Do not let her feed the heart!" Sadie vanished. Not magic. Theft skill. 1 second she was beside me, the next she slid under a chain, rolled behind a crate, and cut through a black strap holding the White Bull tribute. A mercenary saw her and raised a crossbow. I could have gone for Vivian. I went for the mercenary. The racing suit was still damaged, but stage 1 answered. I hit him shoulder first and drove him into the crate stack. Blue jars burst around us. Hydra scale plating on my gloves hissed where seed fire splashed, resisting just long enough for me to drag him away from Sadie's back. Sadie caught the tribute in both arms. The oath mark on her wrist flared black. "Favor delivered?" she shouted. "Not until the king is breathing outside and the tribute is in my delivery box," I shouted back. "Greedy fine print! Professional fine print!" The Minotaur hit the room like a train. He came through the wall, horns first, and scattered Iron Serpent mercenaries as if they were furniture he disliked. Blue fire burned in his chest around a hard seed. His eyes found the White Bull tribute in Sadie's arms. Then he found Piper. The thread had wrapped around Piper's hand to guide her along the wall marks. The Minotaur saw the old light and charged. Piper froze for one breath too long. I broke the glass charm around the Monkey King ember hair. The ember strand burned into my palm. A second me appeared between Piper and the Minotaur, grinning like a bad decision with my face. "Wow," the clone said, "we look terrible." The Minotaur smashed into him. The clone caught both horns, slid backward, and laughed like the Monkey King had personally written the attitude. The impact threw Piper clear. She hit the floor, rolled, and kept the thread in her fist. The clone looked at me over the Minotaur's head. "Tip better." Then the Minotaur tore him in half. The clone burst into red-gold sparks that wrapped around the monster's horns, blinding him for 3 precious seconds. Piper scrambled to me, breathing hard. "You saved that. I am emotionally attached to expensive objects and inconvenient partners. Move." Sadie shoved the White Bull tribute toward my delivery box. The box refused to open inside the maze room. The courier window flashed. "Cargo cannot be accepted while stolen. Claim remains active." Vivian laughed. She held up a blue flame seed fragment in one hand and King Minos's chain in the other. "The claim remains mine," she said. "Iron Serpent found the tribute. Iron Serpent holds the king. Iron Serpent will sell the seal back to gods and governments after the maze bows." The Minotaur shook sparks from his horns. The maze heart opened behind him, a round chamber of blue fire and sea-green cracks. Outside the theft room, through a sudden threshold window, I saw Neptune's temple, survivors on the harbor boats, Grant and Mara at the temple line, Sunspire hunters holding spears, Vulcan's forge window burning above them, Mars in red light, Freya's feathered glare, Hell's cold hall, watching gods, watching survivors, watching hunters. Vivian saw them too. Her smile became public. "Perfect!" I stepped back and let her step forward. "Say it again," I said, loud. Vivian lifted the seed fragment higher. "Iron Serpent holds the seal. Iron Serpent holds the king. Every power watching will bargain with me." Piper's eyes widened. She saw what I saw. The threshold window was not a camera. It was a border. Neptune's temple, the stolen tribute, the blue flame, the king, the oath, the maze heart, all lined up in one place. Vivian had not proven ownership. She had confessed possession in the threshold itself. The White Bull tribute blazed in Sadie's arms. Sea-green light shot through the room and struck every Iron Serpent emblem. Vivian's white coat burned black at the collar. A mark seared across the armor under it, a serpent wrapped around stolen blue flame. Every mercenary screamed as the same brand appeared over their guild marks. The crate tags lit up. The seed jars cracked. The captured mercenary at Neptune's temple shouted as his emblem burned through his sleeve in front of the survivors. No paperwork, no hearing, no report. Iron Serpent had branded itself in public by trying to sell the theft before the threshold. Vivian's face finally broke. The Minotaur roared and charged through the light. The brand did not stop him. It made him worse. He slammed Theseus into a wall, threw 2 Iron Serpent mercenaries into the blue fire, and drove one horn toward King Minos hanging from the chain. I had one clean shot at the monster's exposed chest seed. I did not take it. I threw the gram blade at the chain above King Minos instead. Chiron's bow mark burned on my wrist. The thrown blade curved. Not like a normal throw, like the air had decided protection was a straighter road than pride. It sliced the chain holding King Minos. The king fell. Theseus caught him with his injured arm and dragged him behind a broken crate. The mark on my wrist went cold and faded. Chiron's homework passed. The Minotaur turned on me. The courier window flashed. White Bull tribute claim cleared. Cargo accepted. My delivery box opened. Sadie shoved the tribute inside. The maze heart screamed. Then the mercury token lifted out of my pocket. Time did not stop. It thinned. A man stepped from a silver line between doorways. Winged sandals. Traveler's cloak. Bright eyes that looked amused and exhausted at the same time. Mercury. Piper whispered his name. Sadie looked away, jaw tight. I gripped the handlebars of the Hydra scale bike because if I did not hold something, I was going to punch the first divine explanation in reach. Mercury looked at me. Mason Reed, you were not chosen because you were strong. Great opening. Very motivational. You were chosen because you were unfinished. Rain. Broken glass. A last delivery still in your hand. Your body crossed death. Your route did not. The courier window found a threshold no god could fake and no prison law could own. The memory hit clean. Not flashes this time. Rain on Gray Harbor asphalt. My old scooter skidding, a truck horn, a delivery bag tearing open under my fingers. My phone blinking late route, late route, late route, while my blood ran toward the curb. I remembered trying to stand because the customer had paid already. I remembered failing. I remembered the world going dark with my hands still around the bag strap. Then I remembered waking up months later with hospital debt, a cheap scooter replacement, and no clean memory of why rainy intersections made my teeth hurt. Mercury's voice stayed steady. Between life and death, between pickup and drop-off, between mortal law and divine law. That is why doors answer you. That is why the thread chose you. That is why the tribute must pass through your hands. I wanted to be furious. I was furious, but the Minotaur was already charging, and rage without movement was just expensive weather. You could have said that earlier, I said. Mercury's mouth tightened. If I named the answer before the first threshold opened, the prisons would have heard it before you could survive it. Convenient, costly, he said, for everyone. The maze heart burst wider. Mercury stepped back. Deliver the tribute into the heart, not throw, not drop, deliver. The courier window printed the final route. Drop off, labyrinth heart. Cargo, White Bull tribute. Courier status, threshold recognized. Rift opening, 6 minutes, 44 seconds. I mounted the Hydra scale bike. Piper jumped on behind me with Ariadne's thread wrapped around both wrists. Sadie leaped onto the side rack without asking. Theseus dragged King Minos toward the threshold window, bleeding and furious and alive. Vivian staggered toward the blue flame seed, brand smoking on her armor. No! I can still sell! The seed fragment in her hand melted into black slag. Every crate behind her cracked open and poured blue fire into the maze heart instead of into her control. Villains love leverage until it recognizes the real owner. The Minotaur blocked the heart. I paid 120,000 points to force one emergency charge through the racing suit and the bike at the same time. No new fancy treasure dropped into my hand. No free miracle. Just the point shop taking a fortune to let my nerves become lightning one more time. Pain hit so hard my vision went white. Piper's voice cut through it. Left horn dips before he charges. Thread says under, not around, Sadie shouted. I hate riding with honest people. Then steal a better seat, I said. The Minotaur charged. I drove under the left horn. The Hydra scale bike scraped along the floor, armor screaming. The horn tore through my shoulder guard. Piper pulled the thread, and the wall ahead opened one door exactly wide enough for us to shoot through instead of splatter. We entered the maze heart. Blue fire swallowed the room. The White Bull tribute rose from the delivery box into my hands. It was not large, just a carved white bull idol, heavy with old sea law and king blood. It shook like it knew the maze wanted to eat it. The Minotaur crashed through the door behind us. I did not throw the tribute. I carried it to the center seal. Every step fought me. Blue fire pulled at my arms. Dead May's voices offered money, power, doors, old memories, Evelyn begging, Dennis apologizing, Vivian crawling. Lies with good production value. Piper wrapped Ariadne's thread around my waist and anchored herself to a stone ring. "Walk, Mason!" The thread burned. Piper screamed but held. Sadie jammed 2 daggers into the floor and grabbed Piper's belt. "This favor better be counted done!" "After delivery," Piper shouted. The Minotaur lunged for my back. Theseus appeared in the doorway and drove his sword into the monster's thigh. It barely slowed him, but barely was enough. I slammed the White Bull tribute into the center seal. The delivery box chimed, not loud, clean, like an order finally handed to the right door. Delivery complete. Sea green light erupted through the blue fire. The Minotaur's chest seed cracked. His rift power peeled away in burning strips and slammed into the tribute seal. The maze walls stopped moving. The false doors died. The blue flames folded inward, pulled down into the labyrinth heart until the room looked less like a mouth and more like stone again. The Minotaur staggered. For the first time, he was only a monster. Still huge, still horned, still furious, but no longer a city-eating prison gate. I pulled the gram blade from the chain wreckage where it had fallen and activated the last seconds of the emergency charge. The racing suit screamed around my nerves. The Hydra scale bike roared beneath me. Ariadne's thread in Piper's hands snapped a path around the right horn. Theseus drove the monster back 1 step. King Minos, barely standing in the threshold window, lifted one shaking hand and spoke a command in a language the maze remembered. The floor locked the Minotaur's hooves for half a breath. I took that half breath. The bike launched. Gram blade cut through the cracked chest seat and out the monster's back. The Minotaur roared once, loud enough to break the last blue jars in Vivian's crates. Then his horns hit the floor. The Cretan labyrinth went silent. For 1 perfect second, nobody moved. Then Neptune's temple erupted behind the threshold window. Survivors cried, shouted, collapsed, lifted children, lifted weapons. Grant lowered his sword with both hands shaking. Mara covered her mouth. Vulcan's forge window burned bright enough to turn blue smoke orange. Mars's red light flashed around the cedar baton on my belt, and I hated him for being right. Vivian Knox tried to crawl away. The brand on her armor flared. Every Iron Serpent mercenary still breathing dropped as their stolen seed marks dragged them toward the threshold line, not killing them, not freeing them, just pinning them in front of the people they had tried to sell. Vivian looked at me. For the first time, she had no offer. I crouched beside her and said, "Iron Serpent should have offered more." She spat blood near my boot. I stepped over it. The courier window flashed so many rewards I had to blink through them. Cretan labyrinth route complete. King Minos saved. White Bull tribute delivered. First rift sealed. Minotaur defeated. Iron Serpent theft claim publicly branded. Threshold status recognized. Title updated. Courier of Thresholds. Total reward, 1,200,000 points. Then another line appeared. Apartment security objective available. Clear Lakeview Tower obligation? I stared at it. Piper leaned on my shoulder, exhausted and shaking. "Mason, you can pay off your home. Home. Not rental. Not temporary ceiling. Not a place Dennis could threaten or Evelyn could look down from. Mine, if I wanted to be stupid and sentimental with money. I converted enough points to clear the Lakeview Tower lease buyout, building fees, taxes, penalties, and every little rich person surprise charge the app could find. The bank confirmation landed, paid. No red paper, no extension, no begging. I looked at the word until it stopped blurring. Then I ruined the moment by saying, "I am buying breakfast somewhere that charges too much for eggs." Piper laughed and almost fell over. Sadie held up her wrist. The black oath mark cracked and dissolved. "Favor done," she said. "Favor done," I agreed. "Try stealing from worse people next time." She looked at Vivian pinned under the threshold brand. "I just did." Mercury stood near the sealed maze heart, half in silver light. I turned on him. "We are not finished." "No," Mercury said. 6 routes remain, 6 prisons, 6 blue flames." The courier window opened 6 sealed rue cards in a silent row. Then my stomach growled so loudly that Piper heard it. I looked at the cards. Then at the dead Minotaur. Then at the people alive because the first route was done. I closed the phone. The sealed cards vanished. Mercury raised one eyebrow. I said, "I am the courier of Thresholds now. Thresholds can wait until after breakfast." Piper hooked one arm through mine. "Daily tribute? You saved my life. You get pancakes. Do not make it weird." Sadie fell into step on my other side like trouble with good timing. Theseus carried King Minos toward the survivors. Grant and Mara cleared the threshold. Vulcan's forge window faded with one rough laugh. Outside the temple, dawn finally hit the ruined city. I had started as a delivery guy climbing stairs for a stolen tip. I ended the night carrying a title gods had to respect, a partner who knew when to pull the thread, a thief who owed me nothing and still stayed close to the exit, a paid-off home waiting across the sea, and 6 impossible routes I refused to open before coffee. That was not noble. That was breakfast, and I had earned every overpriced bite.